Oh, I got something.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So I was going to the local Italian deli to get a gabagool, but
Jesus
all they did
Christ.
was gab the ghouls.
Hot damn.
It's Gavin the Ghouls.
That's about the best I got. Anyone else have anything better?
Do you want to tell us about why you were late to podcast recording?
Yeah, you did say
Okay,
you would
so-
explain, and then you didn't.
Okay, so
now
yeah,
you
so
have
here's
to
what
do it on
happened, right?
record.
I got out at work at 7:15.
Yeah.
I had to work late today. I
Uh-huh.
was supposed to be out. Apparently, I was supposed to be out at 5. I didn't know
Oh.
that. Because they were like, "Can you work late?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I thought I was working that anyway. So at 7:15, I walk out the front door, and my ex-coworker is there, and he's like, "Hey, you ready to look at my new car?" And I'm like, "Ah, shit, that's right. We'll call him Dave." And it's like, "Ah, shit, Dave's here with his new car that he was talking up the entire time that he was like still working with us." So I go outside, and this man has a top trim hybrid Kia Sportage with iridescent paint that shifts green and blue in the sunlight.
Oh, hot
So firstly,
damn. Ooh.
Yeah, okay. So you sit down in the driver's seat. I didn't sit there. I was sitting in the passenger seat. There are 2 widescreen LCDs, one for driving and one for the radio.
Oh.
And it's
Man's
God,
got
it is.
dual
Holy
monitors in
shit.
his car.
He's got dual
Were they
monitors in his
curved?
car. No, they were flat.
Oh, okay.
But they were huge. The cockpit was massive. Like there was a dinner table. God damn it. There was like a dinner table for 6 size center console that you could do anything with.
And you can like
And there was a
expand
seat
it
in
a
the
bit
back.
and put in the extra panel if you have company coming over.
Oh, yeah, yeah, the
Exactly.
leaf for the middle, yeah.
So there's a sunroof that goes all the way back to the trunk.
Holy
The
shit.
back seats have leg room, and the trunk is big enough that you can, if you fold the seats down, you could like fit a coffin in this car,
Whoa.
and it's not that big.
Kia's putting
It's a nice little
hearses
car.
out of business.
Yeah, he's talking about all the fun features this thing has, and I'm like, I needed to be recording by now. It is 7:30, and I need to leave.
Wow.
And I didn't get to leave the parking lot. This man talked about his Kia for 30 minutes. And I gotta be honest, he had more. He could have told me there were more features that he didn't even touch.
Wow.
But yeah,
he wanted to see you in that Kia.
He did. want
He
He
to
said the
see
guy's
the
name was
Kia.
Dave, but it was actually Suzuki Joe.
Whoa. Noah was trying to protect his identity.
I
trying
can't
to be
believe
nice,
you just
Jeff.
doxed Suzuki Joe.
anyway, so yeah,
Fans of
that's why I
our
was late.
podcast will not get that joke.
That's
for
that's
fans
true,
of my
actually.
podcast
We might have like
My child will
N64
scroll
will
past.
get it, but like I think that's it. Pretty sure it's just him.
So the ghouls, though, on the other hand,
The
they be needing
ghouls.
gabbing. I watched a wonderful movie recently called Possessor.
Yeah.
The whole movie, I'm sitting here watching, I'm like, damn, this is fucked up. What a weird ass movie.
Whoa.
Kind of Cronenberg-y. I wonder who directed it. And then I finally finished the movie. I'm like, cool, let's look up who this is. And then I see, oh, who is it? Brian Cronenberg? David's
I
son?
think.
Brian.
That's classic Brian.
Classic Brian.
Yeah, Brandon Cronenberg.
Brandon.
Sorry, not Brian. Brandon Cronenberg.
Brandon. Classic Brandon.
Coming
That's
in
classic
out of
Brandon.
nowhere with this clutch freak movie. What very good time. The loose concept that you learn from the beginning is there are people who can jump into the minds and bodies of someone else and control them, and they use them to like carry out assassinations.
Possess
Oh.
them even.
It's real. I watched this movie because I confused it with Terrified, because I'm like, oh, Possessor. That I heard people say that was like the scariest shit they've ever seen. That's Terrified. I haven't watched that one yet.
Oh.
Not Terrifier with Art the Clown. Terrified.
Right.
So I ended up watching Possessor instead, but it was really cool, really weird. Had a full 5 seconds of erect dong in profile.
Oh.
Damn.
So
You know
maybe
how
we'll
to
watch
get
it sometime. Yeah, we'll probably watch it for the podcast for the dong alone.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Gotta get that dong.
Gotta. We've had a shortage of dong on here lately.
I think I would I've been on a strong 8 out of 10 kick recently, but I think that's just because I'm watching movies that I enjoy but aren't perfect, you know?
Yeah, I was
but I
about to
think-
say, do you think you're on an 8 out of 10 kick because you're just having fun in these movies, or are the movies actually that good?
No, I think the movies are actually that good. This movie could be, it ranges from a 7 to a 9, I think.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
So,
like,
yeah.
you know, that kind of that situation that I just mentioned would kind of mirror the situation that I had watching Halloween Ends with you and with Nina, because like while we were watching the movie, I was having such a good time that I didn't realize how many problems that movie had.
We were the only ones there, and we were loud as hell.
We were obnoxious as shit. It was fantastic. I peed on every single seat. I shit on the floor. We were really loud the whole time. Dumped popcorn everywhere.
It's
Dang,
kind of
wish
funny.
I could have been there.
Yeah. You would have loved it. It was great.
I watched The Medium last night with
Oh,
my
yeah?
roommate. It is a Taiwanese, I think, horror film.
Ooh. Okay.
Pretty-
2021?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Recent-ish. But
Mhm.
solid movie. It's about possessions and things. I
Cool.
feel like I missed out on a lot of cultural context. And
Of course.
so
Mm.
I feel like I need to read some people's insights and things about the movie to really understand certain parts of it.
Sure.
But overall, a fun time. Enjoyed it.
Cool.
I
Very nice.
have been working.
Who
at
the
a
fuck
movie
are
theater.
you?
Well, I'm trying to explain. I've been at a movie theater. That's all you need to know.
But who let you
Damn,
in
we
here?
got our man on the inside.
It's me. I'm the man on the inside.
Damn.
Holy shit.
So as such, I get free movie tickets that I proceed to not use because I don't want to be at work longer than I have to when I'm not getting paid.
Yeah, that makes
Incredibly
sense.
based of you.
I have seen Halloween Ends, and that is it. But I get to hear everyone else's opinion on movies, including this weekend's, as of recording, this weekend's opening weekend for Black Adam.
Yeah.
And the first review I got to hear about it while walking down the hall to leave as people were coming out of the theater. Man, that movie sucked, but hey, it had The Rock in it.
I gotta be honest, that is me coming out of every movie I've ever seen him in. Just
Genuinely
about. Like, hey,
are
that was
the-
not good, but that sure was Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Currently,
will-
the running theory with
So
me and my
true.
coworkers has been DC just wanted to get The Rock before Marvel could, so they pulled a movie out of their ass.
Yeah.
Well, The Rock has been trying to get Black Adam to happen for a long time, to be fair.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
I
been
was gonna
talk
say,
of it
I
for a
did hear
long
that.
while.
okay.
Yeah. But I have heard the movie is mid. I have no plans to go watch it, but
Yeah.
I will also absolutely 1000% die on the hill that Jumanji is an incredible movie. Thank you.
Jumanji is a fun movie.
It's a
I
fun
liked
time
it.
for sure.
I love that movie. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies and we keep the dongs coming, except for the past few episodes. With us today are Noah,
Ayo.
Jeff,
Hello.
me, also known as Emma, and Nina isn't here with us tonight, but we have special guest, Edge.
Hey, I'm podcasting here.
Hey, I'm
damn.
podcasting here.
I
Edge,
can't
who are
believe
you?
This podcast just got more Italian.
It's the only bit I've got. Anyway,
It's
You
no
may have
Stealing
heard
my
me-
bit?
stealing it.
You
You-
think that's a joke?
as stated, I'm Edge. You may have heard of me on this podcast for being called out for how bad my Tinder prospects are in the episode Fresh.
I mean, that's not a dig at
Oh, yeah.
you. It's just
It was accurate, though.
your Tinder situation at the time was bleak as hell.
It still is pretty bad.
Shit.
It's better than it was. But
There is that.
blood sister of half the podcast, sister-in-law of a quarter of the podcast, and Emma, I appreciate you.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot to me.
I can't believe you're the only part of the podcast that she appreciates.
Right? Feels good.
I'm
Feels
related
good.
to you fuckers. I'm not going to appreciate that.
Well, but I thought you would appreciate Nina.
Well, she isn't here right now, is she?
Well, I guess you're right. All right.
All
got me
right.
there.
Well, on today's episode, we are talking about Halloween Kills, the hit horror movie of 2021, second in the new kind of trilogy of the Halloween movies, the ending of which, Halloween Ends, is in theaters now. And we have a variety of opinions about it, but you'll have to wait till next year to hear about those, because this year we're talking about last year's movie.
Last year's movie.
Yeah.
Edge, do you want to give us a little non-spoilery taste of what Halloween Kills is about?
Absolutely, I do. Halloween Kills is pretty much the continuation of what happens the rest of the night on the end of Halloween 2018. Just the chaos that happens after the house catches fire.
Whoa,
plenty of
spoilers.
hijinks to
There's
go around.
chaos.
And that's as far as you can get without going into spoiler territory.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
That's
works.
That's good though. That's really the whole setup to it. Good enough.
It's
yeah. So if you
solid
liked
middle.
Halloween 2018 and you want to see what happens directly after that, this is the movie for you.
Yeah, if
But
you watched
manage your
Halloween, if you
expectations.
watched Halloween 2018 and you were like, "Man, this is good," but I just wish I knew what was going on for the rest of the night, And then you also
Yeah.
said, "I want to know what everyone in Illinois was doing in 1978 on Halloween night."
They'll tell you. They will tell you.
They absolutely will. What a great non-spoilery summary. Thank you, Edge. Next up, I am very curious what some of the, how did the critics feel about this movie? Because I feel like they liked Halloween 2018, if I remember correctly. So I imagine they would have
don't
loved
remember.
this one too.
I would expect so, right? It's just more of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember what the critics said last time, but this time, oh boy, we got IMDb at a 5.5 out of 10, Rotten Tomatoes at a 39%,
Ooh.
Metacritic at 42, and Letterboxd is a 2.6 out of 5.
Ooh.
Oof.
Now, as avid listeners of last week's episode will know, we're dragging my guy I follow on Twitter into our review system now.
Oh,
if you've
yeah.
seen the
Right,
movie.
right, yeah. Yeah,
So,
the critics that we pay attention to are Roger Ebert and some guy Noah
This
follows
guy.
on Twitter, who
This guy.
apparently has,
So-
bad opinions, you say?
So, Brandon has deleted some of the tweets about Halloween Kills. He made 3 tweets about Halloween Kills in the aftermath of Ends that have been deleted. So I'm going to have to be on top of these things if I want to catalog them.
Yikes.
But last year, when the movie was fresh, Brandon said, Halloween Kills is silly as fuck, thinks it's a prestige horror flick, and plays it with a straight face.
Okay.
And that's the whole thing. There's a few deleted tweets about how he thinks it is ass garbage fan service, but I don't have those anymore.
That's fair.
So
as a
we're going to leave
criticism.
those out. The jury will disregard any comments related to Brandon thinking Halloween Kills is ass garbage fan service.
Valid.
Lucky for me, I'm not on the jury.
Oh no.
But also, it's a franchise reboot, kind of. So, of course, it would be fan servicey.
I mean, yeah.
That's kind of thing, right? Like, it's always going to be a little fan service.
It's hard
There's no
to
way.
And
around
by
it.
fan servicey for a Halloween movie is Michael kills things.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I think
there's
what
no
I'm
other
here
way
for.
to be fan
Yeah, like that's
servicey.
it's what everyone watches the movie for. So it's like, well, that's
Now, one thing I will say that he has, in a grander scope, talked about this movie with is the fact that it brings in legacy characters again.
right.
A little bit of a spoiler, but a great theme of this movie is bringing back characters from the original Halloween and the second Halloween as like bit parts in this.
Right.
Were those the original actors?
Yes.
Oh,
Some.
I thought maybe because some of them weren't great actors. So it's like, those have to be the same ones.
That's it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
played
people-
a child in 1978.
Yeah, there's a lot of people were brought back like that. But one thing he did say is in defense of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022.
I am already disregarding
I'm
this man's opinion
intrigued.
because he's defending that movie at all.
He said he loved how much contempt that movie showed for its legacy actors versus the weird pedestal Kills put like random actors onto to deliver some supposed to be hard-hitting line about the moral of the movie.
He's talking
Whereas-
about Bracket, I'm sure.
Yes, he is. Whereas the Texas Chainsaw movie was like, here's our legacy character. She's gonna die in 5 seconds. And he liked that because he's a little burnt out on legacy character movies unless they do it really well.
I do have a lot of thoughts about the legacy characters heavily featured in this movie.
And we'll get
Um,
to that.
And we'll get to that. Absolutely. But before we get to that, I'm curious. We've heard about the critical ratings of this movie, but critics, what do they fucking know?
Yeah.
right?
That's what I'm saying.
They don't know anything. They don't understand horror movies like us.
Yeah.
We really
don't get
understand
it.
and
The common
appreciate
man.
the good horror movie.
Yeah.
So, Noah, what would you rate this?
As a non-critic and a man of the people,
Uh-huh.
I think Halloween Kills is the most 6 out of 10 movie I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Jeff,
Jeff?
don't say that yet. We have to get your review first.
I can't say
Jeff?
yeah until I give a number. When
Jeff,
did we
what do
make
you
that
think?
rule? I was kind of torn between giving it a 5 or a 6. This movie is so aggressively mid. Like the critical ratings were kind of right, I think.
But what's more mid? Halloween Kills or Black Adam? That is the question that I want to know.
I haven't seen Black Adam, so there's no way for me to know. This movie
You wanna
did
come
not
with me
have
and Nina
Dwayne
when
The
we go?
Rock Johnson in it, whereas Black Adam does. So that's
But
you know who this-
100% more Dwayne The Rock Johnson than this movie has.
Do you know who this movie does have, surprisingly, that I found out just by happenstance? Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Bob
That's really
Odenkirk's in this
funny.
movie?
Yeah.
Bob Odenkirk.
Well, kind of.
Saul from Better Call
Yeah.
Saul.
Wait, who is
Yeah.
he in this movie? What's
He's
he?
in this movie. They have this like segment where they're showing like the deaths of like who died by Michael Myers, like news segment sort of thing, and they're showing pictures of all of these people, and they couldn't get a hold of one of the actors for the original like character, and so they were Googling just like random 1970s high school photos, and they found a picture that looked like the actor.
Oh my
And
god.
it just happened to be Bob Odenkirk. And so they're like,
Holy
we can get a hold of
shit.
this guy. And so they asked him, he's like, yeah, you can use my picture for this character.
Because when they, okay,
Isn't
I
that
think I
funny?
even know what picture you're talking about. Because when they show it, every time I'm just like, that
I'll link
doesn't
it
look
for
like
you.
the guy
I
that
have
was
the
in the
article
movie.
up.
It's a bowl cut and thick glasses.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a bowl cut and glasses guy in Halloween 1978. Sorry, John Carpenter's Halloween 1978. But like, it's not the guy that they show a picture of. So I was just like, what? Why did they not get a picture that looks more like the guy? That's just Bob fucking Odenkirk. What the hell?
Yeah, they couldn't get a hold of the guy.
Okay.
So they improvised.
Well, yeah. You just.
That's wild.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sure you're all curious what I think about this movie.
I was just about to
Incredibly,
ask.
yes.
Yeah, I want to know.
Honestly, last year I hated it.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Rewatching it, I enjoyed it a little bit more at first.
Okay.
And I was like, maybe I was too harsh on this movie. Then we started getting to the middle, and I was like,
Ah,
oh,
nope.
no, yeah, I do hate this movie.
I was appropriately
Um,
harsh on this movie.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it like a 4.5.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't argue
But
that.
Ed, special
Ooh.
guest of the podcast, what did you think of this movie? And what would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10
Oh,
Halloweens?
no.
I would like to preface this
Oh boy, okay.
by
Oh,
saying I'm
no.
very biased.
Yep. I see where this
How
is
are you
Because of-
going.
biased?
I have specific scenes in mind that I think of and I go, these were actually done really well.
Yes.
It's when Michael takes his shirt
See?
off and takes a shower.
See, that's the problem with this
That's
movie.
in
Is
the
it's got a
spoiler summary,
couple
Noah.
of
God damn
scenes.
it.
There's a couple of scenes in this movie that go so fucking hard, but the
Aw,
movie as a whole
right?
doesn't keep up with it.
There are a few scenes, I'll talk about this later in spoilers,
Yeah.
but there are a few scenes that even now on rewatch, I had to pause for a minute because it taps into some of like my worst fears,
Mhm.
and it builds that tension very well. But
Mhm.
as
She's
a
talking
movie
about the scene where the
overall,
gay couple are
uh,
just sitting happily on their couch because she's incredibly homophobic.
oh my
Yeah.
god. Uh, I'm going to give this movie like a 6.5.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
If I
Mhm.
That's what
a
Noah
few
gave
weeks
it.
ago, I would have probably rated it different, but now after Halloween ends and also like
Seeing how everything
rewatching,
ties together in such a great way, you realize that this second movie is really incredible.
It truly was Michael Myers' master plan. Just like
God,
Lori said.
I took that down as a fucking note. We'll get there. Yeah, there's definitely a few scenes that bump it up for me that help make up for the god awful dialogue and whatever monkey on a typewriter that wrote it.
Yeah.
Nice.
It
All
really
right.
is
Perfect.
typewriter monkey dialogue for a lot of this movie.
A lot of it's really, really, really bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And you know,
also the
we got
editing is
some-
really bad.
The editing's not great in a lot of points. But like the lighting throughout the entire movie is so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
The lighting's good.
I like a lot of the
I-
music. I love the kills.
Yeah.
The
I
kills
didn't
are
realize
amazing.
this.
That's one of the big things.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this so much with Halloween 2018. And maybe I'll notice it if I like go back and watch it. But this and Halloween Ends have a directing style that reminds me of a bad anime.
Oh no.
Where it'll constantly do awkward like flashbacks.
Yeah.
Where they play
Yeah.
clips from older movies and just like stick it in there. Just not really for any reason, but we'll just do like flash clips of previous movies, and it just is really awkward and out of place.
But enough
Um,
about Halloween
I-
Ends.
I
Well,
will say,
Halloween Ends does it a lot, but
It's half the runtime.
they do it a number of
but
times
it
here
is,
too.
Yeah, it is all over this one as well.
with the editing, I don't know if this is editing as much as it is just poor planning in the writing. There are
Yeah.
a lot of scenes where people just kind of teleport around,
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
specifically
like
around
the
the
bodies.
No, I mean like the hospital scene where you'll have somebody in the middle of a giant crowd in the 5th floor of a building, and then
And
in
it's
the
like-
next scene he's down on the ground next to something
Yeah.
else.
Even though in the crowd
Oh,
shots it's
yeah.
very explicitly shown to you that he's got no control over the situation at all.
Mhm.
Like the entire point of a scene is, man, nobody can get anywhere.
And then this guy
somehow we've managed to get through all of it and past it, and with a running head start. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
Yeah.
But
We'll get
I mean,
there. We'll get
I mean,
there.
yeah,
That's,
we'll
that's
get
all in
into some of
spoiler
that kind of stuff in
territory.
the spoiler section. But first, we gotta
We will.
find out how scary this movie is.
No, we
don't.
don't even try,
God damn it.
Jeff. You're bad at it.
Because
First, it's trigger
content warnings are
warnings.
scary.
No, I had a thing. I was gonna say, you know what else is really bad is some of these content warnings. And I was gonna move into it, and you just bulldozed in and made it seem like we were missing a step. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, the content warnings: we got brutal killings, suicide, gore, needles, alcoholism, drug abuse, and hospitals. Bad
All-
hospitals.
all of which are very scary, as I
Not
said.
yet. I have another thing to add on to this.
Yeah.
Okay. hit it.
There is a dead dog at the beginning,
Oh,
and also, if you are afraid of stampedes or the human crush,
yeah.
that is a big one.
oh yeah, big mob stuff. Big mob stuff.
Any- mob
Anything
stuff.
with large groups of people, and all the risks that come with putting them in a small space.
Yeah.
hmm
If you don't like Black Friday sales, this
Ugh.
movie's not for
This
you.
is not for you.
Now, Emma, would you please tell us how scary this movie is?
No, I think
So-
Jeff had something he was trying to say earlier about
no,
how
no,
scary
no.
this movie is.
No, that's okay. We'll move past that.
This movie, I feel bad because Edge was like, there are parts where I had to pause because it's like very much affecting like my specific
Trust me, it is
fears.
definitely a me problem.
Okay. There's some gore, and it doesn't really shy away from showing said gore, and the gore is gory. So if you have a weak stomach, then be aware of that. But for everybody else, it's not really scary. Maybe like a 2 out of 10.
Wow.
I feel like this movie in general, because of the violence and gore, it scores a solid 4, I feel like, at the very least. There's a lot of weird stuff in here.
Well, that's nice for you, Noah, but you're not Casual Obsession's official scary rating horror person.
I guess that's
Shit,
true.
you
That's
sure
my
aren't.
job.
You get power over your own segments, Noah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, with that out of the way, Edge, would you like to dip us into spoil territory and give us a spoilery summary?
Absolutely, I would. I wrote a summary while watching the movie, and I'm going to try and trim it down because I realized I wrote way too much.
You have 30 seconds.
Hey, yo.
Oh, look of panic.
We start the movie with Allison's boyfriend calling Oscar, who doesn't pick up due to the fact he is dead on a fence. He then finds the body of a cop in the road. Cop from the last movie. It's Hawkins. Officer Hawkins. He's still kicking and saying things like, he must die, which is a common theme in the movie. You're gonna have to keep up with that one. See, back in 1978, Hawkins was one of the most incompetent cops on the force, and as such, got put on Michael Myers duty, like they all did. Doesn't manage to shoot him after having a very clear shot. Michael was literally standing still, like down at the other end of an alley. Somehow doesn't manage to hit him, and then decides to stop running after him at some point because he thinks, oh man, he went around a corner. I can't see him. Better look at this blood on the ground.
He
Loses him
power walked
completely.
too hard.
Another cop comes over. They talk about, oh yeah, I knew that kid. He liked looking out of windows. You know.
Kid stuff.
Jump cut to another child, still in 1978, being bullied in the most half-assed way possible. I really don't know how he could sit there and really be this affected by these kids.
He messed with the Mulaney's.
He did mess with the Mulaney's.
That kid? That was a young John Mulaney before he killed Princess Diana.
Well, nowadays we know he means business, but back then they just had the worst nursery rhymes possible.
Yeah.
If I had somebody in my face saying, Lonnie's short and scrawny, or whatever it was that they were saying, I really wouldn't be that intimidated.
Seems like he could have just walked away at that point.
He really could have. But then they stole some of his candy, they kept on insulting him until a cop came around and told him to all go home, because hey, 3 people just died down the street.
Oh.
Kids continue to bully Lonnie for it, and then they go home. As Lonnie is going down the street to go home, he sees Michael just kind of next to a bush and disappear, and like any child who's just been told, hey, 3 people have fucking died on this street, he goes and tries to check it out. Nothing happens, but eventually, as he gets more paranoid, he trips and falls, giving Michael the prime walk-in time to just walk right over him.
Damn.
Nothing ends up happening to Lonnie, allowing cops to come up and say, hey, what happened to you, kid? To which Lonnie looks directly into the camera and says, it was the boogeyman.
This
and
is
fucks
one
right
of,
off.
I think,
It was
47...
Michael Myers Halloween Kills 2021.
Yeah, I think this is one of like 47 scenes where someone looks directly into the camera and says something.
Specifically about Michael.
I'm pretty sure every character in this movie does that at least once.
Yeah. So a couple of cops go into the Myers house were reminded, hey, Michael Myers does in fact eat dogs, or did that one time. He's a growing boy. He needs his meals.
Right, of course.
One of the cops stands at the staring window a bit too long, and Michael just runs at him and kills him. Except he doesn't kill him. He just holds him there for a minute, Hawkins comes up, and accidentally shoots his fellow cop while trying to shoot Michael, continuing to be the most incompetent cop on the force as Michael calmly walks downstairs, leaves the house, and without a scratch.
In his defense,
Loomis
that
runs him.
particular shot actually seemed like it would have been a kind of a difficult one. Which really just means he shouldn't have fired his gun at all, but whatever.
Possibly, but I feel like if you have somebody very calmly walking in a straight line down some stairs while you're at the top of the stairs...
Yeah, at that point it was easy.
At that point it could have been easy. That point, Michael is taken in by the cops outside. Loomis is there to wave his gun around and yell some things, as he is tend to do.
Pure evil.
Exactly. Back to 2018, we are in an open mic night, and a couple from the first movie, dressed as a doctor and a nurse respectively, are in this bar watching a talent show go on, except there is a rowdy crowd behind them that just keeps talking way too loud. Next guy comes up to give his talent out, and it turns out it is Tommy from the original movie, one of the kids. I think the kid that Laurie was babysitting, if I
Mhm.
recall correctly. And he has been brought up to do his famous bird calls, but he doesn't do bird calls. Instead, he just decides to re-traumatize an entire room of drunk people by vividly recalling a story of 3 people getting murdered. He apparently does this
let's
every
trauma
year.
dump for our talent night.
And
I'm not sure, like, if the directors slash who writers want us to see this guy as like a hero character that we're supposed to like, because I just see him
Yeah,
as an
it's-
asshole. I hated
it's
him.
incredibly
Yes.
difficult to get a beat on like what they want you to think of him, but like something that really got me this time around watching it, this was like my 3rd time watching this movie,
Mm.
is just remembering that he is like idiotically drunk for this entire movie.
Yeah.
Him and
Oh,
Lonnie
yeah.
both are just tremendously like shit-faced for the whole movie, and all of their actions make a lot more sense if you've got that in mind. But also, yeah, the movie kind of tries to frame him like he's cool sometimes,
Yeah.
and that doesn't
Like,
work.
they frame him as very heroic
Or
a lot of the
well-intentioned
movie
at
and like
least. But
action movie star kind of. And I'm like, no.
yeah, that's just, it doesn't work.
Apparently every year he comes up and he like gives this same speech about things because him and a group of other traumatized Michael survivors get together and they celebrate surviving by just having the worst vibes possible, apparently, and ruining everyone else's night every Halloween. While
Mhm.
also saying,
Yeah.
we will never succumb to fear, which is why we recant it in the most gruesome way possible
Yeah,
and
see,
force everyone else to also be afraid.
it's kind of tough to figure out what they're trying to do that night at that bar as well, right? Because Tommy gets up and he just like kills the vibe in the room. But before that, they were like laughing obnoxiously.
Yeah. Obnoxiously enough that like that's how you're
Yeah,
introduced
that
to
like
them.
somebody asked them to quiet down, and he was like, "Oh, I'll quiet down. I'm gonna get up and tell everyone this murder story."
It feels like it's written by a jaded old person
Mhm.
where they're like,
yeah, who's like
because like
trying to teach
after
the
he
young
tells the
people.
story, the people that like asked them to quiet down and they were like assholes
Yeah.
towards were like, oh my gosh, we didn't realize you were that cool and like
Yeah.
amazing. Let us buy you
we
drinks.
like you now.
Yeah, it just feels like an old person being like, oh, they're gonna appreciate the wisdom and
yeah.
the things that we share.
These young people are gonna learn some respect.
To finish off his story, he then toasts to Lori, wherever she is. She is currently bleeding out in the back of a truck as they ride away from the burning house. However, there are firemen on their way to the house about to give us one of the best scenes in the entire movie,
Holy
which is
shit, yeah.
Michael clawing his way out, just grabbing whatever he feels like and killing people with it.
Mhm.
In again, one of my favorite sequences of the
It's a
entire movie.
fantastic scene.
Absolutely fantastic. Laurie's brought to the hospital, meanwhile, and 3 generations of female leads are all cleaning the blood off their hands and trying to process anything that just happened over the past day. None of them can. There's a really weird scene in the morgue where Karen goes in and asks about her husband, and the doctor just keeps going, "You can't be in here!" over and over without actually trying to get her out.
Mhm.
The
A
guy
little
on the
aggressive.
table is definitely breathing in that scene, and that's all I could focus on.
Also, the
Yeah.
morgue in this hospital just has windows into the like publicly
Yeah,
available
there's
parts of the
uncovered
hospital.
bodies in there, and there's
Yeah.
just windows everywhere.
And yeah, none of that makes any goddamn sense whatsoever, but
None of it. Cut to what we later find out are Laurie's neighbors. They are having a wine and Cheez-It drone flying party, and it sounds like an amazing time, to be honest. They talk about how crazy Laurie is, but it's interrupted when Michael arrives. Having finished killing all the firefighters, he is moving on to the next house. The wife tries to put up a fight, but there is no stopping this man. Never. Husband becomes a pincushion and moves on.
Another fantastic scene.
Another
Mhm.
fantastic scene. See, this is why I rated it so high, because
Every
all the
scene
scenes that
Mike
Michael's
is
in,
in.
every time that everybody stops talking and Michael is there, it's great. Back in the bar, the talent show continues, and so does the trauma dumping, honestly.
Yeah.
Turns out the boyfriend of Allison is Lonnie's kid, and that's how the gang finds out, hey, murder is still happening. Cowboy sheriff sees the fireman massacre, and within an hour, everybody knows Michael is back. Murders from the last movie have been discovered, and in the process of a news special telling them all that 2 psych ward patients have escaped tonight, we get a blurry photo of Michael Myers and some other guy.
The Penguin
worry
from
about it.
Batman.
Everybody in the bar sees this and goes, hey, we should probably go home. But in the process of trying to go home, one of the young couple that we saw in front of the rowdy group at the bar go to their car and see one of the 2 psych ward patients in the back seat. Panicking, thinking it's Michael, they run back to the bar and say, hey, Michael Myers is in my back seat. And everybody decides, you know what? Vigilante justice, cool, fun, free, it's easy.
Yeah.
Guy in the car, plays around with the radio, careens off, but soon enough, us, the audience, find out this is definitely not Michael Myers. But nobody else knows this.
Well, I mean, he couldn't drive. We knew it wasn't Michael because
Yeah,
Michael can drive a car.
Michael can
Somebody
drive,
must
yeah,
have
that's-
taught him.
Yeah.
Cut to homosexuals who are living in the Myers house,
Hot
both of
damn.
whom are named John. They are my favorite characters. They're great. Some kids fuck around, steal their candy dish, and the 2 decide to get back at them by telling them the story of the Myers house. Myers house, which I have to only assume they got very cheap after all of the murders that happened there.
Hope so.
Hope so. Back at the hospital, Karen and Allison sit and talk about how much Michael has affected their lives, and in the process, find out Michael is, in fact, still alive. And now, Tommy has decided he is taking the law into his own hands, cannot trust cops, and starts mobilizing even more civilians.
Karen
Karen tries to say
the
something
whole
else.
time.
Karen decides to say something extremely reasonable about the fact that trained cops will definitely be more likely to take down Michael than a teenager would, but her daughter decides that that sounds stupid and that she personally will be able to do a lot more if she's out there. Tommy brings a trunk of illegal weaponry to this hospital full of cops and starts just distributing it to everybody that's around, and I'm sure that's the most sane plan that anyone could have.
Once again, Lonnie is drunk off his ass.
Then you have all the scenes of vigilantes going out and trying to track down Michael. In the process, a lot of them getting taken out themselves. Everybody from the survivor group being taken out in the process, along with the new friends we've made along the way. Back in the hospital, Laurie's reminiscing with Officer Hawkins. They're having a very nice and sweet moment together until they find out that, oh, hey, Michael isn't actually dead. We can't have this moment. Tommy decides the best way to handle the panic that's growing in this hospital, with more and more people coming in to try and find loved ones and get help for anybody injured, is that he is going to start yelling about murder. Again, very drunk, in front of multiple cops.
Right.
Coining
right.
the great phrase, evil dies tonight. I'm not sure if you guys
Evil
had heard
dies
that
tonight.
one. It's a real blink and you'll miss it moment.
Oh yeah. It's kind
I
of like
think it
Love
could
lives
sound
today,
cool.
isn't it?
it's kind of like in
Exactly.
the first Spider-Man movie, when Uncle Ben says, "With great with great power comes great responsibility," and
I didn't know he
so
said
many
that.
people completely missed that line when they watched that movie. You know, they completely forget about
that
it.
just completely went by me.
But it's a pretty great line from that movie, and people forget. Just like
Mhm.
Evil
Great
Dies
little-
Tonight in this movie.
Little hidden gems and
Yeah.
everything. Tommy continues to then ruin things by telling Laurie that Michael isn't actually dead, and tells the audience personally why he should be the one to kill Michael. Again, a common theme. Laurie then shoots herself up with painkillers in the worst, most painful way possible, so she can get up and have her own moment looking at the camera and saying that she's gonna be the one to kill Michael.
Just a real
She
quick note on
retrieves
that
the
one.
knife that they just let her have in the hospital. They've been smuggling this knife in the hospital the entire movie, and
Yeah.
nobody has said anything.
It's a little strange.
Mm.
It's been moved around multiple times.
Yeah. Just a real quick note on the painkiller scene there. You don't need to wind up to stab one of them needles into your ass.
Absolutely not.
And if you do, you're actually very likely to snap it off inside your flesh. Don't go doing that.
she already had an IV, so I really
Yeah.
don't know what.
And also,
why she thought this would
doctors
work a lot
don't
easier?
just leave painkillers lying around openly
Yeah,
in
no.
patients' rooms. That
That's,
stuff is pretty tightly controlled.
There's a lot going on in this hospital, and I don't think anybody in the writer's room actually knew how a hospital works.
No, not remotely.
Back in the Myers house, while our favorite couple, Big John and Little John, are having a very tender moment about beekeeping, somebody starts pounding at all the doors. Someone breaks into the house, and they take up weapons and decide to search, find out, hey, what's going on here? Back at the hospital, the crowds are only growing, and the hospital has gone into lockdown. Despite this, however, the second psych ward escapee has arrived, obviously wounded and pleading for help, walking through massive crowds of people and cops. This hospital, which is on lockdown and being guarded severely. Nobody notices him, however, until someone says, "Hey, yo, is that Michael?" And suddenly everybody notices him.
Yeah.
And we are led into one of the more tense sequences in the movie. At this hospital, panic breaks out. Somehow the psych patient has gotten through everyone and deeper into the hospital than anybody, while not being able to get through the crowds of people. That is an obvious plot point.
Yeah.
This is where all the teleporting comes into play. But don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Lori is trying to tell everyone that it's not actually Michael, but then she beats up a doctor a little bit too hard and reopens her fresh surgery wounds, and she's out for the count.
Yeah, why does she even do that?
Because somebody tries to push past her.
And she's just like, I'm gonna
And-
beat the shit out of this doctor, and that's it.
Yeah, in retaliation, she just beats the ever-loving hell out of him.
Evil dies tonight.
And so does that doctor,
So true.
apparently.
Yeah.
He
must have been
in this
evil.
chaos, families are running past the morgue, finding bodies of loved ones at just the most unopportune times, only adding to this frenzy. They're now swarming a stairwell as they've heard that Michael, in big air quotes, is going upstairs. Michael is blamed with the quote, "It's happening. Michael's masterpiece." Michael,
Yep.
of course, being across town, doing some equal opportunity killing. Hawkins then reveals to Lori that he's the only reason that Loomis didn't just kind of put Michael down like a dog in the middle of the street in 1978. But he knows better now, and that Michael doesn't deserve any mercy, and that's why he is going to be the one to kill Michael. For those of you counting along at home, that's at least 3 people who have said this.
Yeah, there are 3 at this point. And it ends up being just about everyone in the movie who says it.
Karen decides to make the teleportation work for her and gets past all the crowds and helps lock the psych ward patient in a small hallway upstairs that somehow locks from the inside on both sides. It's a bit odd, and I'm not sure if that's how hospitals work, but never mind the logistics of it, because now we have swarming people on every side, all screaming for this guy's demise, clearly intending to beat him to death, and this proves to be too much for the psych ward patient, who flings himself from the 5th floor window. And now the entire town is only left to stare at the carnage as everybody struggles to figure out, like, if this actually is Michael Myers, realizing very quickly that this is not the boogeyman they thought it was. All the tension, however, is immediately cut as somebody says, "Looks like Michael has made us the Halloween Kills 2021 tonight."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that part was a little on the nose.
It was a little bit on the nose. There's some exhibition that reminds us again that Michael doesn't actually care about Lori and is not going to hunt her down like half the movie has been claiming, but instead going back to the Myers house. Lonnie brings the kids to the Myers house and then realizes how stupid it is to bring 2 teenagers to the Myers house where Michael Myers is.
Once
And
again, Lonnie
to
is
his
drunk.
credit, tries to keep them safe by telling them to stay in the house, but both of them are too stubborn and end up following him in, finding the bodies of both Johns. And Michael again proves to be an ally of the LGBT, recognizing that these two were obviously in love, and poses them nicely with a record playing.
That was nice.
After a bit of crime scene tampering, the boyfriend Cameron finds Lonnie's body and gets attacked by Michael. Allison, soon to follow, gets thrown down the stairs. Cameron tries to help her, but instead gets his head stuck through a stairway railing and kind of bounced around like pinball bumpers. You'd think there will be mercy, but Michael ends him pretty quickly. Karen comes in clutch, stabbing him in the back with a pitchfork from the front porch and stomping his skull into the stairs, but as we all know, that is not enough to take out Michael. So instead, she just grabs his mask and starts leaving. She says some weird stuff about his sister, but then just kind of runs.
Yeah.
Michael, only caring about the mask at that point, follows after her and is surrounded on all sides by an angry mob of civilians with a variety of weaponry. Everybody starts just beating on him. Karen gets a good stab in and then leaves. But unfortunately, now that the plot important people have left, Michael decides to say, hey, never mind, and gets back up, killing everybody one by one in a neat single file line.
Including Tommy.
Finally, Tommy Doyle's put down like a dog, like he needed to be done at the beginning of this goddamn movie.
Honestly,
What, in the
he
bar?
tries his best.
Yes.
In the middle of the bar at
I
the
don't
town
have
you
a
brought down the
talent, but I'm
vibes.
gonna tell you a story. Bang!
That's what happens when you ruin a good Halloween party. Tommy
Ruin
tries
a
his
bad
best,
one.
but ends up getting taken out with his own baseball bat that he's been swinging around the entire movie. Everything at this point is also happening at the same time as a monologue about Michael being a mythic force of evil and fear,
Yeah.
which it
it's
sounds cool, but none of it actually really makes sense.
it's a cool
Mhm.
scene,
I
but the
wanna talk about
voiceover
this.
from Laurie
Yeah, we'll
makes
definitely
zero
talk about
sense
this.
whatsoever.
But
Yeah, I got stuff.
yeah. Karen, who's now curious about Michael's mental state and how did this guy even get here, decides to say, hey, what's a bit more crime scene tampering? Just goes up to the faded window to look out, curious about what she may see that Michael's always seen. Or perhaps he was always looking within.
Well, I mean, ironically enough, she does see exactly what he would see, which is Michael's reflection in the window.
Michael's reflection in the window right behind her, striking her down for having the sheer audacity.
That was his spot.
Uh,
she couldn't take his spot. That's not very
Exactly.
nice.
Mom said it was his turn
Valid.
at the window. Lori
Well,
calls
dibs.
Karen, and Michael is polite enough to answer for her and just kind of breathes into the phone for a while. I don't know who taught Michael how to answer an iPhone,
Listen, if he can drive
It's
a
the guy that taught him how to
stick-shift car,
drive.
I
but
think
same
he can
guy who taught him
figure
how
out
to
a
drive in
phone.
1978. I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah, it was 1978, and the guy was like, yeah, and that's the clutch on the left. Also, in about 50 years, they're going to invent these phones, and here's how you're going to operate one when you receive a call.
Tap and
Maybe-
swipe.
Maybe his new doctor from the first movie
Oh, yeah.
let him play on the iPad somehow.
Yeah,
Sartain's
Sartain
just
let him
like,
have an iPad.
Michael, here's how you answer a cellular phone.
You'll need to
Just
know
put on
this,
Cocomelon
just in
for him. It's
case.
fine, don't worry.
You know what? I actually kind of buy that from Sartain. that
Oh,
he would
yeah,
try
no.
something like that.
Sartain has him on like this very vigorous like physical program to make sure that when he sets about to go kill people, he's ready to go.
I
That would
wouldn't
explain
even
a
be
lot.
surprised. Like,
But for the final scene, hearing Michael breathe into a phone gives Lori the strength to now get up again, less than a few hours after open surgery that has been reopened at least once. She now has the strength to get
a
up.
probable drug overdose as well.
Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely. Like there's enough painkillers in there to kill a horse.
Yeah.
Grabs the bloody knife that somehow got smuggled into the hospital and stayed around and starts just walking out with it. And nobody stops her. We get a cool freeze frame of just this absolute badass woman in an all-around mid-movie.
Yep.
And that is Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
Yay.
Man, tell you what, Jamie Lee Curtis is good at acting, but she does not have anything good to do in this movie.
She really doesn't. I feel so
She's
bad.
in a
Like
hospital
seeing
bed most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
But
other
like,
movies.
what they give her to do is just shit. It's not her fault. She's doing her best, but like,
She's doing
uh,
amazing with what she's given, but she is not given much.
Yeah. I think
Mm.
her biggest line is just when the cop is brought into the same room. She's like, hey, nurse, give my friend here a double. And I just wish the nurse was like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
This is the same nurse that just leaves all the painkillers there and
yeah,
wait,
like
when she's
suit
told
yourself.
to leave. Like, because at one point they're like, hey, nurse, can you get out and give us a moment? Get out! And the
And
nurse
she's just
decides
like, "Yeah, all
that that's
right."
serious enough. She's just gonna leave all of these medications
Here's the drugs in case you need them.
with ready sterile needles.
Well,
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
Love it.
That's what makes it
Um,
convenient.
I want to talk about a thing that bothered me in this movie, of which there were many.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Obviously, but this is kind of a comedic frustrating thing.
Sure.
But I mentioned earlier when you were talking about like people being not where they're supposed to be,
Mhm.
and I mentioned like, oh, are you talking about the bodies? You were like, no, but there are multiple bodies where like Big John he killed in a doorway, and Big John's body fell backwards, and then when Little John came up, Big John's body was kind of in the middle of the room with his head pointed towards the doorway. So Michael would have had to drag him and like turn him around.
To
And
be
then-
Oh,
fair,
yeah.
Well,
He does.
we
Michael
know
is
he's doing the
known to
move,
do
but
that.
in the moment,
In the moment, no.
Yeah.
And
like,
then Little John gets killed, and then when they find their bodies later on, they're like positioned against the wall where Little John has Big John's head in his lap, and they're dead
Oh,
to like
yeah.
multiple stab wounds and stuff. And I'm like, did Michael position them that
Oh,
way?
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, he
that's,
did.
That's his thing.
He does that a lot.
Yeah, he poses.
He
Really?
mimics.
Yeah, he
likes
yeah,
posing
he was
bodies.
like
You didn't catch
perfectly
that?
mimicking a photo in the background.
well,
even
actually,
It's in the
not
foreground
perfectly
even.
mimicking.
not perfectly mimicking.
Michael,
It changed him
Michael
around.
can't tell who's who, so he puts the wrong person laying down.
Maybe he just thought that it would be nice for a
Oh.
change.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then the other one is that the psych patient that jumped out the window
Mm.
Oh,
jumped
yeah.
and hit the ground
Face first.
like face down.
And then he's
and
lying
then
face up.
his body is like face up.
Yeah, that
like
bothers
the
me
next
every
scene.
time.
Yeah.
We get the POV
A lot of
shot,
bodies rolled over in
and
this.
then
Yeah. Also, I can't talk about this much without talking about my thoughts about Halloween Ends.
it's tough.
So I'm
right?
not going to talk about it in super detail, but I think the problem with a Halloween movie in the modern age is it's set in like small town America, and it's hard to have representation of like queer characters or like POC characters without them being like just people who die or people who are brutalized.
I mean, that's kind of a
Um,
problem with slashers in general,
Because
isn't
this because this movie like focuses on Michael and the legacy characters.
Yeah.
Or like this franchise.
To be fair, though, the legacy characters all end up getting brutalized too.
it? Well, most of
Not
them.
not like the main ones. Not like Lori and the daughter, or I guess her daughter does, but
Yeah.
the granddaughter doesn't.
There's like
But
two that don't, but other than that, it is kind of a free for all there.
Well, I mean, that is
Yeah.
kind of just a thing with slashers, though. Is if you're only going to have a couple of like named characters actually survive to the end of the movie, then you're gonna end up seeing a ton of people whose only real reason to be in the movie is just to get murdered.
yeah. What things do you guys want to talk about?
I have a lot, but it will also lead into my entire analysis of Michael as a character.
Yeah,
So I
so we
don't know if I
wanna-
want to lead into that this early.
Yeah, maybe take a couple minutes to talk about other stuff first. I want to take a minute to talk about kills because that gives me the opportunity to
Absolutely.
both shit on things that I dislike and also talk about some good things that I do like in this movie because the kills are the only good parts, more or less.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the ending monologue when you're done with that.
Okay.
Yes.
So kills wise, I actually do have a little bit of a fun fact on the firefighters scene, which I
Mhm.
think everybody's pretty aware of this at this point because the behind the scenes videos kind of went around a bit. But they shot that whole thing in one take because they were actually burning a house in the background.
Mhm.
Ooh.
And I've seen videos
didn't know
of
that.
them practicing the fight scene in a studio to get it perfect because they basically they just practiced and drilled the choreography until they knew they could get it perfect on the first try.
Mhm.
And the knowledge that they actually did all of that at once, the way that you see it is I think adds a lot to the energy of the scene.
Definitely does.
Also, the
It's-
fact that they were
it's a
just
good
actually
scene.
burning a house in the background. Like, holy shit, what?
All the fire, it just looks great.
It's
The
such a good
fire
scene.
It's
backdrop
so
of
good.
just Michael just absolutely demolishing a
Just
bunch of
wrecking
nameless,
them.
faceless firefighters.
Yeah. Also, I love the way that in this scene, when Michael walks out of the house, the firefighters all look at him and they're like, well, I know we're here to fight fires, but fuck this guy.
Like they all were ready.
Yeah,
to be
like you
fair,
immediately
like,
get all these shots of them like tightening their grips on their like axes and crowbars and shit. And it's just like, well, I don't know that this
My
is a
favorite-
normal thing for firefighters.
My favorite is the dude that immediately just starts hosing him down.
Yeah.
Just starts hitting him with the hose.
With the world's weakest fire hose, apparently, because those
Weakest
things will
fire
blast
hose.
a person back.
Or maybe
This
Michael
isn't
is
a
just that
person,
strong.
This is evil.
Okay, but like in the shot,
Exactly.
you can see the arc of the water, and you will not see that at that distance with a fire hose.
Just spray him like people like spray water at a cat.
Yeah,
Like,
just
hey,
like
stop
no,
doing
stop
that.
it.
Stop killing
Stop
people.
killing.
Hey,
Michael.
stop it.
Hey, quit
We
it.
talked about this. Get off the table.
You know you're not allowed.
No, you're not allowed
Yeah.
up there.
I love after that the knife block kill with the light bulb stab. I love the scene of her sitting there with
Yes.
the fluorescent bulb like stuck shattered in her neck. And he's got
Yeah.
her husband on the counter in the kitchen just stabbing him with every knife that they have until he finds the one that's his
Yeah.
favorite. I fucking love that scene. That's so
it's a
good.
very good scene. I
Mhm.
can't all the kills in this movie.
Not all. Not quite all the kills.
A lot of the kills.
The car kills were
The
terrible.
car kills are really not great. I especially hate the doctor accidentally shoots herself in the head kill. That's fucking stupid, and I hate it so
That's really
much.
stupid. I hated
Ruins the
that,
whole
like,
thing.
inside the car, the old woman, or older woman, I guess, was like, everybody get away from the windows so I can wait for Michael to put his hand down and I can shoot his hand. I'm like, just shoot through the top of the car, you dumbass.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
He's
But
just
she
on
needed
top of the
to-
car.
She needed to look him in the eyes and say, "This is for Dr. Loomis," so that all of Loomis's sins could like counteract the good she was trying to do and
true,
jam her
true,
gun.
true. Yeah. Also, in relation to that scene, before that scene, there are the like two kids on the swing set. And they're like, oh, there's this creepy guy in a mask that keeps trying to play hide and seek with us. And this is just like further, not evidence, but it just further makes me think that this movie was made by a jaded old guy.
Yeah.
Because the way the kids are written are just so stereotypically like, we don't respect authority.
Yeah, the kids in this
Or,
movie are
like,
just
bullshit.
so hashtag teens that it's fucking
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so bad.
yeah.
And I feel like it wasn't that bad in 2018. I feel like those kids weren't written as bad, but these, like this specific group of kids is just written terribly.
Yeah.
But it also brings up the question, do people know about Michael Myers or not?
Yeah, what
Like,
the fuck?
everybody will not
Yeah.
shut up about
Apparently
Michael Myers, but these
everyone-
kids are out here not knowing jack shit about Michael Myers because
Yeah.
everybody has to explain it to him. Like, oh, this is the Myers house. This happened and this happened.
Yeah,
like the firefighters saw the mask and they're like, it's on site.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
But
yeah,
then
because everyone in
else
Illinois
in
has
town,
a story from 1978 about how they saw Michael Myers and survived miraculously.
the most realistic
Mhm.
part of the movie. Every single person you know, I fought Michael Myers. Fist
Yeah,
fight.
and most of their
Knocked his
stories
block
are
clean
like,
off.
and most of their stories are like Lonnie Elam, where it's like, well, yeah, I tripped and I saw him, and then he was gone, and it was terrifying. I shit my
Right.
pants.
Mhm.
God, I love that. It's embarrassing, Lonnie. Don't tell that story.
He's drunk. He's telling every story he knows because he's drunk.
Meanwhile, Tommy's story is like, yeah, he kind of came into my house. I didn't
wasn't
really see
there
him,
at
though.
the time.
Like, he walked past me, I guess. I kind of
Technically.
passed out and pissed myself.
Well, yeah.
I also hated in regards to kills,
Yeah.
Lori's daughter's death. I forget the
Karen's
character's
death.
name.
Yeah.
Karen.
Yeah.
Karen's
it's
death,
kinda, it's
where-
It
dumb.
was needless.
Yeah.
It's not even that it's like needless, but it's by far, I think, one of the weakest deaths in the movie. Like,
Maybe that. Yeah.
other
Yeah.
deaths, like the camera's far back, you're seeing the action, you see Michael like pop a guy's eyes out, you see him
God,
stabbing
that was
into
brutal.
people repeatedly.
Yeah.
But then the ending death is just like flash cuts between Michael's mask and the daughter's face, and like maybe just a close up of a knife entering a body, and like that's it. It's just like
Yeah.
such a weak death for like
Mm-hmm.
something that's supposed to be a really pivotal big thing. And I think it's really stupid.
Yeah, it's even
And
worse.
especially
than-
like to end the movie on.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the note you want to
Mhm.
leave at. I feel like it's worse even than like when Little John gets killed and it's just an off-screen kill, because it pretends to be showing you something and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely could have been better. I wouldn't say it was like needless, but it could definitely have been done better.
Yeah.
Uh
One
No,
thing
you wanted to talk about a thing?
Yeah.
Well, about Karen's death specifically,
Okay.
it pisses me off that that's the end of the movie because she dies in a house that is currently surrounded by the police,
there's the teleporting
and Michael
again.
gets away.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so in real quick,
Yeah.
Mm.
in Halloween Ends, the Myers house has been demolished. There's a little tiny
Yeah.
newspaper, literally blink if you miss it scene if you're not reading
I
every
missed it.
newspaper clip. Exactly.
Fucking
Yeah,
hate
So,
it.
like-
that too.
bad. I
Yeah, so
caught it,
they
but I
talk
hated
about
it.
that. But like the problem is they should have something should have happened to the Myers house in this movie. Obviously
Yeah.
they can't burn down the Myers house and have him like in
Sure.
a fire 2 movies in a row. That's weird.
Sure.
But something needed to happen to it in this movie. Then I would have been fine with Michael getting away. A kerfuffle and the house is like destroyed in it.
Sure.
Makes sense. Works. Kind of cool. He's just there and he has no reason to leave. And then suddenly he disappears.
Yeah, it's like he should have just like, yeah, it doesn't make
You know?
sense.
Yeah, even if it had been just a bit longer in the night before like Karen went up there, because if something had happened that like the cops had been there, gotten the bodies, left,
Yeah.
and
Like, maybe
went
Michael
over
hid in
to
the attic.
where he had like been getting beaten to death, like any sort of gap where the cops had left, bam, that could have been fine.
Yeah.
But suddenly, with everybody still there, there's no real way of
Yeah.
like
No way to get out.
managing that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
and
but
also like
I mean, I bet Halloween Ends will open with a really cool scene where Michael's like fighting through a bunch of cops and like disappears into the night.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, something different.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll
Something-
I'm
give
sure
us
they'll
another
address all of
firefighter
this
scene.
stuff in the next movie. You know, I'm sure the
Yeah.
transition from this movie to the next one will be very smooth and effective.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally.
We'll find out next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so because there are other things that I really do love about this movie.
Yeah, let's go.
We have
Mhm.
joked that every moment Michael is on screen is good, and every moment he's not on screen it makes this like borderline unwatchable.
And that's
I do hold that
correct,
feeling
yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
Every time we flash back to the hospital, I'm like, God damn it. I don't care about Lori. I don't care about anyone here. Take Lori out of the hospital, make her not dying, make this happen on a different night, do something different.
Mm.
Because every time I see Michael, he's killing someone in the most aggressive and really mean-spirited way, and I love it.
Sure.
Because that's what I want from this movie. Halloween
Mhm.
Kills involves Mr. Halloween killing. That's all I want.
Mr. Halloween.
Shoot,
and
dude, he
which-
sure
he
does.
Which brings up my issue with the monologue I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Because they made it so clear in interviews and shit like that that Michael is not a supernatural entity in this timeline. Because, you know, we had him literally being like superpowered demon person due to like cult stuff in other things. And they've
Mhm.
erased that timeline. He's
Right.
just this guy who likes to kill people. He's the strongest 70-year-old you've ever met in your life, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's his whole thing. And I cannot
It doesn't work.
allow that with a man like I'm happy to like give a pass in the sense of okay, I'm just not going to think about the fact that he definitely would not be this strong after being stuck
Yeah.
in a mental institution for 40 years. I'm going to give that
Yeah.
a pass. I'm
There's a
going
bit
to
of,
ignore that. But I cannot ignore that the man who had 2 fingers cut off of his hand
Well, shot
beat
off of
people
his
all
hand.
night long, like the man got beat to shit all night
Yeah.
long.
Just in this
Miserable
one
time.
Stabbed in the
single
spine.
night between
Like,
the previous movie and
yeah.
this one, he gets shot in the head, locked inside a
even-
burning house, which would
Yeah.
reach temperatures that would melt his flesh, even if he did hide in a closet. He gets
Yeah.
shot several times again. He gets stabbed in the neck multiple times and other places as well.
Like,
And-
even all that aside, he went at the end of the movie, very end of the movie. He is shot like 5 times in the chest, both sides, popped both lungs.
Yeah.
Easy. Even if they didn't hit his heart, that's 2 lungs down. He is beat with a bat. He is stabbed in the back. So even if you didn't get the lungs the first time, that's a lung.
Yeah.
This man is down for the count. And then he stands up and kills everyone. And that's a sick scene. If Laurie's big monologue about Michael being more than a man and they've infused him with all the hatred and negativity of the town, if that led to Michael actually being not just a dude,
Yeah.
if he was actually something greater than that, like he became an idea and an idea is impossible to kill, whatever. Okay, I love that. But that's
But actually
very
roll with it.
explicitly stated by interviews with the director, not the case.
That does not make sense.
It bums me
that doesn't
out.
make sense at all.
I'm starting to think David
Like-
Gordon Green doesn't know much about people.
He's got the he's got the 2023 Exorcist movie coming up, by the way.
Oh no.
More legacy characters.
I can't wait to find out what where does The Exorcist take place?
Washington, D.C.
I can't wait to find out what absolutely everyone in Washington D.C. was doing in 1968.
Probably politics.
Damn, I bet it was.
Damn.
Damn.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
God.
Yep.
See,
Yeah.
there's so many like random things that they have this entire speech about how, oh yeah, every time he kills he grows stronger, he's made of
Right.
fear, da da da. Like,
It's so cool.
you could
If
talk
he
a
was.
lot. Yeah. See, you can talk all day about, yeah, this town like has like this lingering trauma, this emotional damage that has
Yeah.
never been allowed to heal, so it keeps corrupting and getting worse. They even say like, yeah, this fear has corrupted my family and yours. They could talk a lot about like how it's all that. But then you like have to take a step back and go, yeah, but Michael's just a dude.
I
They
mean,
address
well,
the fact he's just a
I'm
dude.
sure-
Hawkins refers to him as a 6-year-old boy with the strength of a man and a mind of an animal. So they're very aware that he is just a dude
I
that
mean,
just happens to be super tough.
Well, but
Yeah,
well,
did
we
not
gotta
care for
remember
that.
this movie was intentionally written as the middle of a trilogy, so I'm sure they're gonna address all of this in the next movie, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure they've got a
totally.
reasonable explanation for everything that we're talking about here.
Yeah. Speaking of speeches.
Yeah.
I don't remember where in the movie this happens. But it's something I thought was really funny in a stupid way. At one point the cop is talking about, and I think the direct quote is, Michael is a 6-year-old with the body of a man and the brain of an animal or something. And I'm
strength
like,
of a man, mind of an animal. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, well then he's not really a 6-year-old, right?
Yeah,
He's
there's no
just an
6-year-old
animal
qualities
with the
listed
body of a
there.
man.
Yeah,
Like,
that's just the mind of an
it's
animal, the body of a man. Yeah,
it's
that's
kind of
just-
like the joke you'll see sometimes where they're like, oh, it was a lion, but with the head of a chimpanzee and the body of a chimpanzee.
yeah, that's Mike. Yeah.
Half mermaid, half centaur, so it's half human and half fish and half horse. Just get the human halves. Don't worry about it.
That's 2
Yeah.
top halves.
It almost felt like they were trying to go for the old trope of, hey, he's just crazy, but they couldn't actually just say that outright because they're also trying to have an incredibly overly serious talk about mental health. So they can't just say,
Yeah.
well, Michael, he's a crazed man who's just crazy.
He's just a
so they're like,
wacko.
oh, he's got the brain of a child. Then they're like, oh, we can't just end
Oh
on
no,
that.
he's got the mind
And
of an
the
animal.
body of a man and the brain of an animal. And it's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah,
I don't know,
it's-
man. It doesn't add up.
Much like everything else in this movie, none of it really works. It's like the whole movie feels like it was put together to be filler, because they were like, oh, they told us we have to make 2 more movies and like we can't end it yet, so and then we got this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the better movie would be, because like I like how it's the same night as the previous movie. It just picks up directly where it left off, and I like that.
Yeah, that's a fun gimmick.
Yes.
I think that's the one of the few things that this movie does very, very right. But I feel like, similar to what you were saying earlier, Noah, maybe if we had the movie pick up where it picks up, but then like after the Michael kills all the firefighters scene, it's just like, and then Michael disappeared and nobody knows where he went, and then we get
Yeah.
like a time jump and
Mhm.
Laurie is like back to full health again.
But then they'd actually have to write her into the story.
Oh no, Laurie
the
Strode would
one
actually
thing.
have to be a present character in
So
a
they'd have
Halloween
to
movie.
write more.
Can you
they'd
imagine
actually have to
such a
write
thing?
something happening.
Yeah.
Because for the amount that happens in this movie, not much happens in this movie. Michael does a
Really?
lot. Michael is a busy, busy boy.
he is
But
all
everybody
over.
else just kind of mills around and goes, "Ooh,
Evil dies tonight.
what? When I find him, I'm gonna kill him.
Evil
When I,
dies tonight.
when I find him, he's gotta come out here sometime. I'm
Michael
gonna
Myers
kill him.
needs
Gotta
to
find him.
looking
gotta kill
directly
him."
into the camera. Michael Myers needs to die, and I'm the one who's gonna kill him tonight.
Because in
Evil
1978,
dies tonight.
I existed on Halloween when he was out here,
Yeah,
and I was on that same street, which means it's me.
it's me. I survived a direct
It's me
confrontation
personally.
with Michael Myers when he knocked on the door of my bathroom and I shit myself. And then he
and I
left.
said, "Hey,
And
somebody's
I never,
in here,"
I never
and
saw
he
him
left.
or anything, but I know by the sound of the footsteps and the knocking that it was him. And that's why I have to be the one who kills him tonight.
Yeah. Somebody stole my copy of the New York Times off my lawn
And I'm
on
pretty
Halloween.
sure.
And I'm pretty sure it was Michael Myers in 1978. And that's why I personally am going to put him down like a dog.
Some skeptical bystander is like, do you think Michael even knows how to read? He's been in institutions since he was 6 years old.
Somebody must have taught
Somebody
him.
must have taught him.
Where's Loomis waving a gun around and yelling when you need him?
Evil
He
is
could have done
here.
this so much faster.
I diagnose you with evil. God, you know how many movies, by the way, a little side tangent here.
Yeah.
How many more movies are like way fun if you imagine Dr. Loomis also exists in that universe and has interacted with the main villain?
Most of them, I would imagine. Loomis
Because,
is
like-
kind of just a funny character.
Can you
He's a
imagine, like,
great
we joked about it
character.
last week, but Loomis in Dream Warriors? What a
Absolutely.
disaster. These kids, they're gone. They're dreaming about some crazy dream man. Nothing I can do. I hereby pronounce them burnouts, medically diagnosed. And that would be the end of the conversation.
It's really funny that that's the impression we get of Loomis, even though in the first movie it's explicitly stated that he tried like really, really hard for like 5 years
did.
straight.
It is one thing that I'm a Rob Zombie's Halloween appreciator, personally.
Sure.
And one thing that I enjoy about the Rob Zombie Loomis is that he tried, and then Michael treated him so poorly over the years that he just gave up and then decided to just become the worst person and
Turned him
use
into a
the
marketable
Michael
plushie.
Myers.
No.
Yeah, literally. So good. Very funny. That's the shitbag Loomis arc that we assign to good Dr. Loomis, R.I.P. Donald Pleasance.
Very big air quotes on good doctor. He was definitely going nutso bonkers.
Hey, everyone did cocaine back then, okay? Dr. Loomis is no exception. Be nice to him.
I don't get why nobody's respecting me and my gun. I'm waving around all night. Why didn't you shoot my patient? Don't shoot my patient. He's my patient. Kill him.
Why didn't you shoot him? He's pure evil. I keep telling you that's a real diagnosis that I diagnosed him with.
Did Michael kill again?
Has Michael killed it? I love how when Loomis shows up in that scene, you just see the flash of the lights and you hear him inside. You're inside the house, but you hear him from outside yelling, "Stay back, the evil is here."
So good.
And it's just like, oh, Loomis is here.
What a cool scene, by the way. Like, I believe all the audio that was lifted, if memory serves. Right?
A line or two, perhaps, but I know they did actually hire the same
A
guy.
sound-alike?
The same guy who did the Loomis voice on the tape in 2018.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, to do
The guy who
dubbing.
played Loomis, though,
Yeah, this is
I
really
thought it was a
cool.
mask. It's just a guy that looks like him. It's just a guy that looks
Yeah,
just like Donald
I thought that they
Pleasance.
like CG'd or deepfaked it or something. Apparently, yeah, they had a guy on set and someone looked at him and was just like, hey, hold on a second. Doesn't this guy look like a little bit like Donald Pleasance to you? And they were like, holy shit.
Because I've seen a mask. I've seen the Lupin or the Lupus.
Yeah, Dr.
Whatever.
Lupus.
I've seen the mask. I've seen the
Yeah, it
a full
exists.
mask thing before. I'm just keep saying that because apparently I'm on a stutter loop here.
Sure.
But they didn't need to use their full deepfake mask, which I did think was a deepfake
Yeah.
at first because I'm like, oh, he looks a little unnatural. No,
Well,
I'm
in the
just being mean
videos,
to a man who's
all the
lip syncing.
1978 images are kind of like grainy looking, so it's like, oh, they might have been using that to hide things because that would be a real
Oh,
slick move.
That
Because
reminds
those
me.
shots are all very stylized in a very 1978ish kind of way.
Yeah. No, that's what I wanted to say. Is maybe I'm making this up, but there's a few shots
I read
in the
that in your
flashback.
notes and brought it up before you did so that I would seem smarter than you.
Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm gonna say it anyway. There's a couple of
Nice.
shots in the flashback sequence that look like they were filmed like pulled back from the action, like wider, like
Yeah.
lens stuff, not as up close and personal as the rest of the movie.
Mhm.
Like there's a few like up close scenes, but it almost feels like they tried to approach the older style of shooting where you just have a camera set up that gets everything.
Yeah, it's.
I think that was neat.
Yeah, I love
so
to see flashbacks getting stylized like that. I think that's very cool.
you're kind of blowing my mind here a little. You're telling me the Dr. Lupus scene in this movie where he's like, "Did Michael do it again?"
Yeah.
That I thought that was just like a clip from the original movie that they spliced into this
Nope.
movie.
No, they literally had a guy working a different job on the movie. I don't remember. He's like a prop master or something.
I looked it up. It was one of their construction
He was a
guys.
construction
Oh,
guy.
yeah,
There
so
were
not-
prosthetics.
Literally, they all
involved.
just looked
Mhm.
at him and said, "Hey, this guy looks an awful lot like Donald Pleasance." So they were like, "Hey, would you want to pretend to be Donald Pleasance for this movie?" And he was like, "Do you think I could do that?" And they were like, "Yes, obviously." And they sent him over to makeup, and the makeup guys were like, "I'm afraid to do too much because I'm worried that I'm going to make him look less like Donald Pleasance." And they
Mhm.
did, they did
Yeah.
a little something. They made sure he
Mhm.
trimmed his beard to the correct like look, and that's it. They did some makeup, and that was all they did.
Yeah, they're
That's wild.
construction foremen. There is a bit of prosthetics there
Yeah.
to like reshape. I think the nose and like mostly for the hair pieces because the guy was like more bald than they needed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I'm looking at this picture from I think this is the right thing. Yeah, hold on, I'm sending.
Yeah, I
it
know.
on.
I've seen pictures of what he looks like normally. I saw a couple of behind the scenes videos as well. I'm gonna try and find all the behind the scenes videos that I've mentioned here and make sure to post them in the Discord at some point.
If I remember, I will link those in the episode description.
There we go.
That do be impressive.
Something I want to talk about really quick before we get into like some of the other stuff that I wanted to talk about
Yeah.
with Michael. I would like to bring up the bloody knife again.
Oh,
that
yeah.
Gets
Yeah.
brought into this hospital wrapped up in a shirt, and then Allison puts it on the hospital bed before she leaves.
Yeah.
She gives it to Lori, but then the next time we see it, it is on a chair across the room, and Lori obviously could not have gotten up.
Ooh. Meaning that somebody must have walked in,
So-
saw it on the bed, and was like, "Oh no, you can't have this on your bed." But then
Yeah,
they
this-
didn't take
like,
it away
some nurse
entirely. They
had-
just set it down on a chair.
But the thing is, it's wrapped up in a shirt. So you could say, oh, they just moved it and put it on the chair. But A, why would they insist on keeping this blood-stained shirt? And secondly, how do you pick it up and not realize there's a knife in there?
Yeah.
How did it get to this point so many times? Because then Karen picks it up and goes, hey, why did
Yeah.
they keep this shirt?
Yeah,
and
why did
throws
they
it
just leave this
in the
lying
hazmat
here? And
bin.
she puts it in the hazmat thing. Yeah.
And then Lori obviously knows there's a knife in there because she goes and immediately gets it out.
Mm-hmm.
What happened there? And then she just walks down the hall with it.
And that knife never comes into play ever. So
Never.
why have it?
It was Michael's. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Oh,
don't
See,
worry
that's
about it.
another
Why
one
you-
of those
why you
things
worrying
where it's
about
like we
it?
could have gotten a fun little Michael subplot where it's like he sees that Lori has his knife and he's like, well, I want that back. It's mine. Mom said it was my
Right.
knife and you can't take it like that. That's not very nice of you. And Lori
It's
could be like,
Wild.
I don't care, blow me. And he'd be like, wow, you're being so mean right now. And
You're being very unreasonable in this moment,
yeah.
Mrs. Strode.
And then, I mean, you
Please.
know, maybe he comes after her with that like Halligan bar from the first scene with the firefighters, or maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
Or the new knife he got.
Or the new knife that he got that he decided
Because he
liked.
needs to compare them.
I bet he does want to compare them.
He's got a good thing going. Which that actually leads me into Michael throughout this entire movie, in his first two scenes of killing, and then beyond that,
Yeah.
you can visibly see him looking at things going, oh yeah, that seems fun, I'm gonna try this out, and moving from weapon to weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the beginning, he grabs whatever he can, kills a couple firefighters with it, grabs something else that they were using on him, goes, yeah, it's my turn, uses it. He uses the saw, then decides, you know what, this isn't like his speed. He goes, and then he goes to the house,
And he's like, oh man, these guys have
every
knives.
knife,
Okay.
tests every knife in their kitchen until he finds the one that feels nice to stab with, and then he keeps that going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it continues because later on, after he's getting beat up by the crowd, eventually he's using his knife, but then eventually he goes, hey, yeah, I want to try that. And hits Tommy so hard with this baseball bat that it shatters.
Yeah.
Which, if I may, I would like to give my personal read on Michael Myers that after seeing Halloween Kills in theaters, me and Jeff sat on his porch for over an hour talking about it.
It was a very long time that we sat on our porch talking about that, yeah.
An entire hour of me going, just one more thing, and then I gotta go home. I have work in the morning.
Yeah.
And then it would be like another 20 minutes, and then I'd go, yeah, but one more thing, and then I'm going home because I have work in the morning. And I did have work in the morning, but it worked out. A lot of the ways that Michael behaves in this movie does fit with their whole 6-year-old in the body of a grown man type of thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go with the mind of an animal thing. I feel like they're just kind of skirting around saying slurs about like mentally ill people at that point.
A little bit.
But you
Mhm.
can really tell that a lot of this is a game for him.
Yeah.
He kills people, he poses them in fun ways on playground equipment. He poses them like he sees in photos.
Yeah.
He shoved a dude in the attic for no discernible reason
Well, so he
other
would fall
than
out when somebody opened the door.
So he would
You're
fall
not thinking
out when
forward
people-
enough.
Except he didn't fall out this time. He didn't have the time to set it up properly.
Well, yeah,
and
everyone kind of messed
he's
it up
working
for
with
him.
off.
And like
He was
this
too busy
kind of
trying to figure out how a record player worked.
Yeah, well, and the like Michael's playing a game idea is really put on display with one of the 1978 flashbacks when he's choking that cop, and then the cop gets shot. He's already like gonna die, and Michael didn't get to kill him, and Michael just like drops him and walks out of the room. Like, oh come on, you ruined it.
Like, come on.
Like I was
And he
doing a
only
thing, and you
starts-
messed it up. You interrupted me.
Exactly. He only starts attacking the cop when he's standing in the wrong spot.
Yeah,
There's very obvious rules to this.
yeah. You can enter the house, but if you stand in his spot by the window, you're dead. That's it.
Mhm.
Okay.
If you
Real quick. This is beef between me and Jeff
Oh,
about
sure.
the length of Michael's knife. I'm on an official
we were
prop site
arguing
right
about
now.
this the whole way through Halloween
God.
Ends, very loudly.
It is an 18 and a quarter inch long knife. That is an
That's a very long
objectively
knife. That's like a
above
machete.
average knife
18 inches? Are you
That's
serious?
from tip to hilt.
It never looks that long.
It's because Michael's
Because
big.
he's a
fuck?
huge man.
Anyway,
it's the
I'm sorry.
largest knife
Continue.
he could afford.
That's a huge fucking knife.
You were saying though you can go
Yeah.
into his house, but you just can't look in his window. Yes.
You can go in his house. You cannot look in the window. You cannot take the mask. There are very obvious rules to what will and will not like get you attacked by Michael, because he will just walk past things. He will walk past people that are just cowering.
Yeah.
But if you are fighting back, if you take the mask, if you take the knife, if you're in the specific spots in the house, that is when he attacks.
Yeah, you do the things that
Mhm.
bother him. And that kind of brings up the same question that we were asking a year ago when we watched Halloween 2018 for this podcast. And we were like, what is the criteria for who Michael decides to kill and who he doesn't? What's the qualifier? What is it that gets you killed and what gets you ignored? Because, like, yeah, he kills the one cop for standing in the window, but why doesn't he kill the other cop for, like, kill blocking him? Why does he just walk away
Right.
from that guy? Why does he go to just
He's
leave?
busy sulking.
Because he's busy sulking. Sure, I will 100% accept that as an explanation. But, like,
What I enjoy about with that scene, we also get when he walks outside and all these cops are like holding him at gunpoint. We get a mirror of the scene at the beginning of Halloween 78 where
yeah,
his parents are standing there,
yeah.
and we just see him with the knife on that front lawn, just blank stare.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely something in him that realizes, okay, this is when he's been caught.
Yeah.
This is when the game is over for now. And then that's why he's just docile in this
Oh.
like he's docile again
he's just
in
waiting for the game to
mental
start.
asylum because he's waiting for the game to start again. Somebody brings his mask back. That means the game's starting again.
Ooh.
Because if you are going with like this theory that he is just still in this child mind state, he's waiting for it to be Halloween again, because then you can do whatever tricks you want on Halloween. You have your mask, nobody knows who it is.
It's kind of like when Brackett looks into the camera and says, "It's Halloween, Michael. Everyone is entitled to one good scare." And Michael's
Exactly.
like, "Damn, you right."
And he took that personally. Like, you have moments like that, and moments where when the mask is taken, he needs to grab it again before the game can even start.
Yeah.
He has so many options to kill people without the mask, but he needs to get it first.
Yeah, he always makes sure that he has the mask right before he goes to kill anyone. And this is something else that we ended up talking about at one point.
Mhm.
Not the night that we saw Halloween Kills, but some other time that we were talking about Michael, because every time we hang out, we end up talking about Michael.
Be nice to me, I have
And
autism.
I don't remember who And I don't
I get
remember which of us
hyperfixation.
ended up like volunteering this idea, but we kind of came up with the idea that like the reason that he gets the mask and also specifically the jumpsuit is because it's kind of a mimicry of the costume that he was wearing that first night
It
when he
is
killed his
similar in a
sister,
lot of
because the clown
elements.
costume that he was wearing has that mask and it's kind of like a one-piece thing that you put on. So
yeah,
we were kind of
it's
thinking
a
that
mask and a jumpsuit and a knife.
yeah, so we were kind of thinking that like everything he does from there is just trying to like kind of recreate those kinds of feelings. That's why he kills that mechanic and takes his jumpsuit, because he sees a jumpsuit and he's like, "Oh, okay, this gets me on my way to doing my thing again."
Mhm.
And
He
then
grabs
likewise
the
with the
mask.
mask, likewise with the
There you
knife.
go.
He's like, "All right, this is all the right
then
stuff."
He imprinted on that specific mask and that style of jumpsuit after that.
Well, they're his. He
It's
didn't
the
fit the
grown-up
clown
version
suit
of the
when he was an
clown
adult,
costume.
so
Yeah, he tried. He
he
really
probably
did try.
did.
There's definitely a lot of moments especially in Halloween Kills, where they show that they're building up to he is just trying to get back to that same stasis
Mm-hmm.
of being in that window, being in that same state as Halloween as a child. He has his costume, he has his knife, he has done what he's done, nobody's bothering him,
Yeah.
and he just wants to be there. And I'm a bit upset that throughout, like, we did kind of see what happened when he finally got there, because he didn't even care that anybody else was in the house after he killed one of the Johns that was in his way. We're very much led to believe he just sat there until Little John came in and then he killed him. And then we're led to believe he just sat there until Lonnie got there.
Mhm.
And he just wanted to be in that stasis again.
Yeah.
And he was just trying to get back to being in that stasis.
He was
He
home.
went back to it after killing Lonnie until Cameron got there.
Mhm.
And I am a bit bummed that they just brushed past that with all the focus they had put on it.
Yeah, I really do like the way that this movie establishes, like, oh no, Michael doesn't actually have long-standing beef with Lori or anything. She's just another person. He just wanted to go home. That's
Mhm.
it. He was on his way home and Sartain put him in a spot. And that's that.
And I'm definitely sure that when Halloween Ends comes
Oh
out,
yeah.
they will definitely address all of that.
Absolutely. I'm
Yeah,
sure that's
absolutely.
going to be
Mhm.
like the driving force of Halloween Ends, right? Cuz it
It would be embarrassing if they did.
would. It
Right?
really would.
If they just never addressed any of
I'm
that.
definitely going to be very disappointed if they don't bring that up.
If they put him in a sewer, for example.
They wouldn't do
No,
that.
I'm
Probably
sure
not.
Imagine-
That
nobody
sounds
would ever
really
write a
weird.
movie where Michael Myers lives in a
What are-
sewer. That would be stupid.
What are you gonna
I gotta-
tell me next? The movie's not actually about the rest of what happens that night. It's like 5 years later.
Yeah,
or
and they just
something?
don't
Okay, I
talk
gotta
about
be
what
honest.
happened that
Dumb.
night at all or something.
You can't tell me that Michael Myers living in a sewer devoid of any context isn't a plot of one of the 80s Myers movies, though. Let's
would
be real.
shocked if it wasn't.
Didn't that happen in The Curse of Michael Myers?
I
or
think
something?
I think
I
he did
cannot
literally
wait
live in
until
the
we
sewer.
eventually like just end up doing a Halloween sequel marathon because I think that's going to be really fun because I'm sure it's going to suck.
We can do like a super episode where we just like knock 3 or 4 of them out of the way at a time.
Like, all right, we just sat
Oh,
down and watched
gosh.
every Halloween sequel.
You'd have to do it by like timeline, right? Because there are different timelines.
I think so.
Yeah, there are
We could do
3
2 and
timelines.
3 together because 3 is separate. So we could just
Well,
do.
I feel like
we're
you
not.
have to put
We
3
can't plan
separate.
this now, though.
Yeah,
No,
not gonna
no.
plan it. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of those themes of Michael not caring about anything. Like, this man gets just absolutely smacked in the face with a pillowcase full of bricks.
He does.
God, I
Does
love that
not
so much.
Flinch. But then she grabs at his mask a little bit, and
he's like,
suddenly
"Whoa,
that
whoa,
is
whoa."
when he starts reacting. Like, hey, no, chill. We're just
Well,
messing
that's
around here. We're
not-
just messing
that's
around.
not
Don't gotta
very
get all like
cool of
personal
you.
with
You're
it.
messing up my costume. It's Halloween. Everyone is entitled to
And-
one good scare.
Yeah, and
You
he
told me
puts
that.
masks. Yeah, and he puts masks on all of them because they're around.
Oh shit, he does.
Like, when there
When
are
the
masks
masks are
around,
available,
he
he
puts them
uses
on.
them when he poses the bodies. Holy shit, you're right. I don't know why that didn't click for me.
He's just having fun, and like, it's trick or treat. Except there are no treats for him. It is all tricks from here.
Well, maybe if somebody would have offered him candy instead of like screaming and being weird about everything, then he wouldn't have murdered all of them.
She dumped all the candy out of that pillowcase and filled it with bricks. What else is he supposed to do now?
Maybe if they had offered him some candy. That's the real curse of
That's the
Michael
re-
Myers. That's the real way that Michael turned the citizens of Haddonfield into monsters was by
it.
I don't know where I was going with that. By like, I don't know,
Exploiting
making them
their
not give
biases
people
against
candy?
giving people candy.
yeah, like
This movie really upsets me because there's so many really cool angles that you could read it as. There's so many cool concepts, and I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, Halloween Kills actually has really good narratives on the state of society at any form.
Mhm.
you don't
But
think
there
this
are,
says
like-
a lot about our society?
We may
We
live
live
in
in a
one, but I
society.
don't think anybody in Illinois does.
Dare I say this brings it back to Twitter Brandon's review. A prestige horror flick, or thinks it's a prestige horror flick and plays it with a straight face.
God. It really, like, it makes me upset because there's a lot that it could be saying about, like, treatment of people in mental institutions and also the perception of those
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
in mental institutions, because you have the other psych ward escapee where you have literally been given, like, this entire town has been given 2 pictures and people get to decide, hey, which one is Michael Myers? We're not gonna tell you. we're not going to tell you which one is very well known for murdering people, because this other guy, from what we see, really seems very harmless.
Yeah,
He
extremely.
is shown to be terrified, sure.
Yeah, he's just
and
asking
he
for help.
he steals a car, yes, but also it is to get away from a bunch of vigilante drunk bar goers.
Mhm.
And then the
Mhm.
first thing he does is tries to get to a hospital to ask for help.
Mhm.
And then suddenly everybody is attacking him and chanting for his death.
Yeah, he kind of
So you
did the
have
right
so
thing
much of
and
that.
then
He did.
was just
He did
punished for it.
everything he could have in that situation because he clearly isn't sure what's going on. He was stranded out in the middle of nowhere from that bus and made it to Haddonfield, made it into someone's car. It's a cold October night. He is in a hospital gown, like in this
Yeah.
in the ward uniform. And he's obviously not having a great time. He's doing his best. As soon as somebody gives him, like, extends that hand of, hey, I'm not gonna hurt you. We're trying to figure out what's going on. He is completely trusting. He
Yeah.
is ready to accept help and get out of that situation. You could have a lot there on the biases of why people assumed he was Michael and why people will assume that those who are mentally ill and have a certain look to them. I'm
Yeah.
trying to find the best way to word
The
this.
assumption that they are dangerous.
Yeah, the
Despite the
assumption
fact
that
that
the mentally
statistically
ill
they are more
dangerous.
likely to be victims than perpetrators.
Exactly.
Drastically more likely,
Mm-hmm.
I might add.
When you see people, you definitely have a lot of preconceived notions about them, but nobody gives the moment to think about the consequences of that. You could have a lot being said through
Yeah.
that because there are a lot of themes in Halloween. We joke about Loomis diagnosing a 6-year-old with evil disease incurable and everything. But there can be a lot of themes of the mishandling of mental health and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then you have this entire scene with the hospital, with the mob violence and the stampede, which again, that's horrifying. The scene with the stairwell makes me physically
yes,
ill.
I
Because
cringe every
that's
time I
something
see those
that
people
freaks
falling down
me
those
out.
stairs. Yeah, ugh.
Falling down the stairs, getting trampled, you have this overwhelming, just suffocating feeling. And the tension of that, and you see the damage that the fear of Michael has done to this town, that they are very much ready to beat a man to death that they think is him.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this whole mob mentality and all that. But then they immediately undercut it with, even when they're debating, is this Michael? Can you be sure it's Michael? How do you know? How would I know it's Michael?
Yeah.
He's always wearing a mask, trying to justify it. But then they look into the camera and say, look what Michael made us do.
Yeah. And
I
that's
can't
interspersed
believe
with,
Michael Myers personally did this.
And then
So
that's the fact that
bad.
is also interspersed with the shots of sad cowboy cop sitting forlornly in the stairwell next to his trampled cowboy hat, which is one of the most hilarious images I've ever seen in a movie, honestly. It really ruins the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because the effects on that scene,
Oh, top tier, good.
sickening. Top
Absolutely.
tier.
Just
I
splattered.
kept
Ugh.
expecting them to cut away a lot sooner than they did with every one of those shots, but they pulled no punches with them. And they're terrifically done. And there's so the tension built up is again amazing. But then they ruin it with one line. And
Evil dies
suddenly
tonight.
yeah. And they blame it on Michael. And then you get a jump cut to Michael on the other side of town, not
Oblivious.
giving a shit. He doesn't know who any of these people are.
Yeah, Michael
doesn't
Michael goes
care.
the entire movie almost entirely oblivious to the fact that the mob exists at all.
The only time Michael knows about half these people are when they are actively beating him up. And at that point, it is a fraction of what it was.
Yeah.
I wish they had acknowledged the fact that the group that actually still chooses to beat up Michael after that entire scene with the hospital
Yeah, the real
is way
extremists.
smaller.
Yeah, they could have had a
Because
cool scene where like there is turmoil within the mob. And everybody's like, "Holy
exactly.
shit, what did we all just do?" And a bunch of other people are like, "Well, but we were doing the right thing. We were trying to get Michael." And a bunch of other people can be like, "Intentions don't fucking matter when this kind of shit happens, dude." And we could get like an
They
actual
never
cool like the people of Haddonfield learn from their mistakes arc.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
like they never acknowledge any of that because you have like it's very much like you have in the background like a rise to the panic the entire time that you have every hospital scene. You hear people in the background saying, "We need to clear the halls. People are getting in the
Yeah.
way. We can't get the doctors through. We can't get the stretchers through." You hear all of like the interruptions happening in the hospital, but then when everything actually comes to a head, you never hear about like, okay, but like there were so many people that they were actively like operating on and still trying to treat.
Yeah.
They were still trying to like do so much with like victims and everything. That never gets acknowledged.
Never.
I kind of wish that they had some sort of moment to acknowledge the consequences because the consequences of that never get brought up.
Yeah.
Nobody, partially because all of our named characters who are directly involved with with the murder of this other guy, all of them die
Mm-hmm.
same
Oh
night.
shit, they all do, yeah.
Everybody with a name like that was involved in that dies because Lori was early on in the stampede. Lori gets taken out and put back in her hospital room, and then it turns into a different thing. Allison isn't there.
Mm.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
Maybe the sheriff, but like the sheriff's barely a character.
Yeah. I mean,
Does he even have a name? He
sure.
was
He's
featured in
Cowboy
Ends, and I'm
Sheriff.
like, oh, they brought Cowboy Sheriff back.
Was he
And
in
that's
Yeah,
all
exactly.
I
It's
know.
like, oh
I
man,
was
there's
about to
Cowboy
say, I'm sure
Sheriff.
he's going to come back as a joke about the fact that I don't remember him being in that movie. But something that happens in this movie that Laurie says when Tommy Doyle comes in and he's like, he's drunk off his ass and he's like, Laurie, you protected me 4 years ago. I'm gonna protect you now. And she's like, yeah, we fight. We always fight. Always? What other incidents
this
is
has
she
happened
talking about? What the
twice.
fuck is she talking about?
Right?
All the other movies that didn't happen.
Of course, right. Of which she was in one. Always, yeah.
Which also happened the same night as the first one, so it's technically just the one event.
Yeah, but like, what's she talking about? In this movie and the previous one, actually, I complained about this a little bit with Sartain in 2018. So many fucking people act like they're some kind of like fucking like Michael Myers, like secret lore keepers or something. And it's way worse in this movie than it was in 2018, because in 2018 it was just Sartain. But like, there's that scene where Sartain meets Laurie, and he's like, "I've read everything that there is to read about your relationship with Michael. I've read everything that there is to read." And it's like, well, they met each other
He's
one
written
time.
fanfic.
They met each other one time. How much could have been written about it? And then, like, every single person in Illinois in this movie is like, I know everything there is to know about Michael Myers. I've seen his work before. He creeps and he kills and he goes home. This all fits the pattern. And yeah, that's Lonnie drunk off his ass. But, like, the fact that he's right doesn't overshadow the fact that, like, everybody in the movie claims to have some sort of special knowledge about Michael Myers.
You don't understand. They read that one newspaper a lot.
Of course, just over
It was
and
a
over.
very slow news week.
Yeah. Well, and there was that time Lonnie shit his pants, so like, of course he knows more than anybody else about Michael.
So true.
He's out here saying he shit his pants. Oh, you think he's gonna just lie about everything else now when he was that honest?
I suppose.
God, it's again, it could have benefit from not being the same night. But also I feel like there is a decent momentum that gets kept up between the first one and Kills.
And I do like that. I'm kind of
I
glad
do
that
appreciate
we didn't
that.
lose it. Because that, like, the events of this movie are so, like, I don't know, just it's like an avalanche. It's just one thing after another, and it doesn't really give you any breaks. That's cool.
Things are constantly happening,
things are
but nothing
constantly
happens.
But yeah, and like the problem with that is that like when you constantly have that like Fast and Furious, everything is happening at once pacing, it makes the movie drag. which is
Mhm.
not doing it any favors given all the other problems that it has.
Yeah. Question. Because looking at Noah's notes, I remembered that there's an extended cut of this movie that I haven't seen.
Oh, yeah,
What does the extended cut add?
I wish I could tell you because I thought the phone call with Michael was part of the extended cut, and then Edge just lumped it in, and I'm like, oh fuck, I just forgot.
I don't remember
If
that being
I
in
don't
the
know if I
movie.
saw the extended cut
I think
or
you
not.
may have,
Okay,
because
so
I don't remember
maybe-
that being in there, actually. I wasn't going to
I
Okay,
say
don't
so-
remember
Yeah,
it
me
being
because I
in
wanted
the
to
original.
seem cool, but
Yeah, maybe Michael answering
I
the
just
cone
figured
and
I forgot.
breathing was that because my memory is the movie hard cutting as Michael grabs Karen.
yeah.
That's my memory.
I'm pretty sure it
Mhm.
does keep going a little bit to finish the monologue that was happening during that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely that monologue and then her dying, that's the end. And then the extension is when Laurie is like trying to call her and Michael picks up the phone just to go
Yeah.
and she
Yeah,
goes,
I
Mhm.
don't
"Oh, I
think
know
that
it's
was in
you."
my version.
Yeah, I have no memory of that. I'm pretty sure it's not in the regular version, but
Yeah, no. I didn't
Yeah.
remember it, and then I saw it happen. Like, well, I guess this happened. I have notoriously bad memory, but I don't think this is how it ended last time.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
actually know how much longer the extended cut is. I watched it. Nothing stuck out except the end. So, but in fairness,
Mhm.
I was pausing and making pumpkin soup
ooh.
between
Valid.
watching.
Yeah.
Okay, I looked. Apparently, including this alternate ending, there's only 3 minutes that gets added in.
That's a lot
3
of stuff.
minutes? That's not that much.
Well, it's extended scenes.
But it's
Mhm.
only 3 minutes.
Got it. It's probably Lonnie at the open mic night telling even more of the story.
Oh, that'd be Tommy. It's
Um,
Tommy who tells the story.
Tommy.
Uh,
Okay.
And Lonnie takes
Yeah,
another
it's-
sad sip of champagne and beer.
Dude, I'm
Yeah.
serious. Like Lonnie never stops drinking the whole length of the movie until he dies.
never.
If you watch him, he is still drinking even while he's driving. He's got like a can with him in the car.
and he chugs the rest of it before he goes into
Yeah,
the
he just
Myers
like
house.
slams it before going in after Michael.
Yeah. I love that actor though. He can read me a bedtime story.
He's
any
got that
day.
voice.
Yeah. He's also in the Mike Flanagan shows.
Oh fuck, that's him.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Love that man.
I don't know how I didn't
So
connect that
he's
that was him.
always-
Jeez, yeah, I like him.
Yeah, he's real good. He looks completely different in this
does.
movie. Yeah. Do we want to move to Noah's notes since we are getting to the point of our podcast episode being longer than the movie itself?
Yeah,
Yep.
we are at that point now, aren't we?
Damn.
We did take a lot of
Okay,
time on the summary.
Noah's-
to be fair.
Yeah, sorry.
it's all good.
I was having
um,
fun.
It was a good
Yeah,
summary.
it's a fun time. It's a good summary. Noah's
Noah's
notes.
notes.
Let's see. Here's the note that just sparked that discussion. Oh ho ho! I'm watching the extended cut, so
Aha.
sneaky. Michael, he's just a man, not anything else. Myers shot several times in the chest, as we all can have happen.
I'm a big fan of this slightly
Um,
later note that says "Red Light Giallo Notes." And I am once again saying that this movie is exactly like Suspiria, guys.
Yeah, truly.
Jeff, every time there's a red or blue light in a movie. Okay, so in Suspiria, bear with me here.
Literally, though.
Lonnie saying the boogeyman and the music sting hitting is so
It's
fucking
so
embarrassing.
dumb. It's so bad.
Oh, it was
Oh, the cops show up and he's just like, "Oh my god, I just shit my pants." And they're
The
like, "Why did you
boogeyman."
shit your pants, Lonnie?" And he's like, "The boogeyman." Dun, dun, dun.
Looks directly into the camera.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, you've got a fun little talent show tonight? I'm gonna trauma dump all over your asses, you fucking jagoffs.
We brought you up to do bird calls.
Ooh, I like this one that says,
Um,
"Who gives a shit? Call the cops." Is the literal only reaction anyone should ever have to someone like Michael being in their house.
Absolutely.
I love that. She's
Um,
like, what does he
Well, what
want?
does he
And he's-
want?
very practically,
Like, man, who
her
gives a shit
husband
what he
says,
wants?
I do not care. There is a man in our bathroom.
Big John and not Big John.
Yeah, it's
The
like
emphasis
Big
is very
John
important.
and not Big John.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
Yep.
They very intentionally said Big John and Little John.
well, yeah, because they're both Johns, so the emphasis would be on the descriptor rather than the name. I mean, I felt like that made sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how
My
I say
favorite
it.
part of that is the fact that imagine being in a relationship with someone who has the same name as you and deciding, you know what, nicknames, not the way to go. Descriptors.
Yeah. See, my
Yeah.
favorite part of that situation is that when we saw this movie in theaters,
Oh my gosh.
there was this older lady.
Oh,
There
story
was this older
time.
lady in the row directly behind us. She was, I think, sitting directly behind Nina, and Nina was right beside me. And
It's like I'm there.
when you were there.
I was next to Nina.
When there is a scene when the Johns start having the beekeeping conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and Big John says, "My mom used to keep bees," and Little John says, "I'm sorry, baby," and he like puts his hand on his back to comfort him. At the moment that he said that, this lady behind us goes, "What the hell?"
Because up until that moment, they were just two
They were
bros
just two
having
bros
fun on
hanging
Halloween
out,
night.
They were
smoking weed and
roommates.
dancing in their
Oh my
underwear
God,
like
they
bros
were
do.
roommates.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Like that's why you
so-
go to the theater.
yeah, so
you can't get that.
This
same,
line is said, and we hear it, and like me and Nina are both just like trying our hardest not to laugh out loud in this movie.
Uh-huh.
I think it's the hardest I've ever tried not to laugh during a movie.
Because the best part is there was like a moment of absolute quiet after
It's
that because there's
very
the pounding on the
quiet.
door, and then it's silent as he's like going and checking on
Yeah,
it. So
and we're
you
just
just
like-
hear the what the hell, and then there's silence, and you hear everyone in this movie just trying their very best.
Oh,
That's
it was
iconic.
great. Seeing this movie
I
in
love
theaters
it.
was actually a good time. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that it got me.
Yeah, the intense
Yeah.
scenes play really well. So,
Very well.
all right, back to the notes though.
Yeah. Any time spent talking to Laurie and Kills is wasted and boring.
Ooh, that is an absolutely correct observation also, but I would expand it to add any time spent talking in this movie is wasted and boring.
Yes.
I'm a
yeah.
fan of this note that says Brackett as an ex-cop should know better than to feed into this violent mob.
Yep, absolutely.
hmm
See, my favorite thing is his reasoning. His entire reasoning was, I was too busy comforting my wife to shoot Michael Myers.
Damn.
And he's still bitter.
hmm
Starting to chase the escaped mental patient, I sleep. Michael's gouging out Big John's eyes, real shit. These pretentious scenes showing everyone going through grief while they rampage through the hospital are hard to take seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that whole subplot was just
It
weird.
it's so serious and heavy-handed, and then it cuts to we're a bunch of snot-nosed kids messing with the gay couple on the street. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's like now he's turning them into monsters.
He's turning us into monsters.
Can't believe Michael personally decided that this would be the best thing to do with his time.
Michael, a man who is known for his elaborate plans and schemes.
Michael, known for gaslighting
Of
people.
course. I mean, he gaslit Loomis into thinking that he was pure evil.
yeah.
That's how good he
Yeah.
is.
Nina said something about this movie's themes being about making other people's trauma about yourself, and that makes sense. But a big issue also is that the movie can't decide what it wants to
Hmm.
do. Generational trauma was tackled in the last movie, but this one is so scattershot that it just doesn't even know what it wants
Yeah.
to say.
Mm.
Yeah, because that was
Good note,
Nina's
Nina.
big point.
That is a good point.
You know, because there's many times. I mean, we've been joking about it the whole time. Everyone has their personal Michael Myers story. This is why I'm gonna put him in the ground.
Well, yeah.
Everyone has
Yeah.
that, and even Laurie, who's the one who like suffered through the whole thing, also is making this entire event about herself to a point.
Right, yeah.
Michael, noted environmentalist, turned all the lights in the house off once he killed the Johns.
That's a
Good
good
for
point.
him.
He's saving all that power.
Good
They
for
did
him.
have an
Thank
awful
you.
lot of lights on. They weren't in all them rooms
Every
in that
light.
whole house. They had every single light turned on. Why? Unnecessary,
Halloween.
Johns. You're going to run up
Just
your
like the song
electric
said.
bill.
Mob violence was bad before, but this time, 15 minutes later, it's a good
We-
thing.
Surely this time.
we've shown it's 100% effective. We just need to point it in the right direction.
Like, I forgot that this movie was so short. I did not remember it being less than 2 hours long. So I paused at the 25-minute point at one point in here. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm a chunk into the movie. This is insane.
See,
Mhm.
And then the end of the movie, the man jumps out the window, and then suddenly the movie, like, boom, 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 we are
Yeah.
ending this movie.
yeah, so that's a thing that I noticed
Yeah.
on this specific watch, actually, was like, the movie's what? It's like an hour and 45?
yeah.
Yeah, so as I was watching
Hour
it,
and 48 for me.
as I was watching it, there was a certain point where I was like, man, this just keeps going, doesn't it? I really wish this movie would go by faster. And then it hit that exact turning point where the one event occurs and it's just like, oh, the movie's wrapping up suddenly. And I was just like, oh, how did we get here so fast?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. It is literally almost real world, less than 15 minutes between the man jumping out the window and Michael getting beat to death with pipes.
Like the movie just runs
shout out-
until it stops.
mm-hmm.
Shout out to that lady in the mob at the end who is just holding a clothing iron,
Yes.
She's
ready to beat Michael
gonna
Myers into the
flatten
ground
that
with
man.
nothing else, wrinkle free.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, Karen, just walk through an active crime scene.
It's fine.
Go ahead. Look
Don't
out
worry
the
about it.
window. It's important
Don't
to
worry
you.
about it. It's fine.
It's good.
I
No
just
worries.
had to know what he was seeing.
And then, of course, how the fuck was he not caught after killing Karen? I obviously do not understand this.
I'm sure they will address
God.
it in the next movie.
I'm
I
sure
am
they'll
Yeah.
address
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'm sure he just kills all the cops on his way out.
100%.
And I bet it's a
All
cool,
taken in one
like,
shot.
like significant scene, like the firefighter scene where he walks out and there's a bunch of cops and
Yeah.
they're like, "Fuck this guy."
Yeah, I bet his house is on fire all while this is happening,
Perhaps.
and they had to do it in one take.
Perhaps.
But then they flubbed it, so you never know.
So it's just not.
So they weren't
So-
able to use it.
They flubbed it, so they got rid of it out of the movie and just put a newspaper
And they
clipping saying
said-
that the house was
And they
destroyed.
said, "Just don't worry about it. Never mind the fact that
Yeah.
house was such a major fucking plot point in the previous movie and a centerpiece of the series. That's not important or anything."
yeah.
Hypothetically.
God.
You know, we'll find out next year,
Hypothetically.
though.
I'm sure we'll
I'm
find
sure.
out.
I'm sure.
I'm real excited to find out
Yeah.
next year. Absolutely. But that's the end of Noah's notes. Does anybody have any parting thoughts?
I just we haven't shit on the dialogue a lot. We've spent so much time shitting on everything else, and
Mm.
we've mentioned the dialogue in passing, but I want to make sure everybody is really clear on the fact that there is a point where a man addressing a crowd of people says, "The boogeyman is at large," and he is 100% serious, and he then whips this mob into a frothing frenzy after having
Yeah.
said, and I'm going to tell you again the line, "The boogeyman is at large."
Yeah.
See,
Yep.
there's
Obviously, Evil Dies Tonight is another bad one that they keep
See, at
repeating
least that one
throughout.
is catchy. You can see how the mob like picks it up and it
It's like a
catches
campaign slogan.
Because
Mhm.
like at
Mhm.
first it's just one person says it to Tommy as he is walking out of the bar, and then he says it during his speech, and then somebody else says it, and somebody else says it, and suddenly everyone is chanting it. Like you can kind of see
Everybody's
how it
doing it.
happens, and I kind of liked the way that they played that. The problem is that everything else Tommy says is such utter shit. I mean, oh god. Like the scene where he's got that
Yeah.
like red light on his face from the car's like tail lights, and he's like it sounds what James from Dead Meat made a joke that he was like workshopping a catchphrase as he went after Michael
Mhm.
Myers, and the line that he says is so fucking bad. And once again, it draws attention to the fact that Tommy is just stupid drunk for the entire movie, because nobody in their
Mhm.
right mind would ever say this sentence. But the line is just, I didn't write it down. It's so fucking
Oh,
bad.
It is "Love lives today, but evil dies tonight."
No.
Is that the line you're thinking of?
No, that's
because that one's really
That's
bad.
the first time that Evil Dies Tonight is said. He says "Love lives today" because that's what's written on like the charity thing that he sticks a $5 into, and then somebody else says, "Yeah, but evil dies tonight." But after that, when he's standing in the red light and he's looking at the car that he thinks has Michael Myers in it, and he's holding the baseball bat, he says
Mhm.
something
Mhm.
like, "I'm gonna go over and swing old Huckleberry here and say night night," and like.
Yeah.
He says more than that, but I am not exaggerating. He does end it with night night. And
God.
it's so fucking bad. And it kind of seems like a lot of his lines throughout the movie, he's like trying to say them in a really dramatic way. Like he's trying to make this feel more significant than it is.
Mhm.
And once again, he's incredibly drunk, and this movie was written by a monkey with a typewriter. So it just never hits, and it only ever makes him sound more stupid and drunk.
The one thing that stuck with me is there's an exchange between Karen and Lori where they go, "There's a system. Well, the system failed."
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought what you were gonna bring up there was a line that Lori says later that I did write down, where she says, "Every
Ooh.
time someone is afraid, the boogeyman wins."
That's why he got
In
up
all
at the end.
seriousness.
To which the note that I
Again,
wrote
in all
after
seriousness,
that,
about an actual man.
yeah, the note that I wrote after that was, "Lori, you're on so many drugs."
Right?
Like in the
Like-
scene where she beats up that doctor for no real reason and her stitches rip and she falls down. When we were watching that in the theater and she like suddenly like clutched her stomach and screamed and fell down, it didn't even occur to me that she had torn her stitches or anything, because I was just like, oh,
Really?
she's just succumbing to the drug overdose that she injected herself with a couple of minutes ago. But no,
Mhm.
that never came back. It's that she
God.
ripped her stitches.
Yeah.
There's
God, what a
What
great
a movie this is. Like, of all the movies we've covered on the podcast, this is undoubtedly one of them.
it sure
Yeah.
is a movie.
Here's a question. What are we watching next?
What
That's
are
such
you?
a
What are
good
we
question.
watching next?
Well, I'm glad you're asking though, Emma, because we're gonna watch VHS, the first one from 2012.
I am so excited and or dreading that.
Man, I wish I were watching
Yeah.
that movie right now. I
Oh,
think
wow.
maybe.
Wow, I'm real. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I am very
I'll be
excited
here for that one.
or concerned, and
Yeah.
Nina will be here probably.
Hopefully.
What will Nina's feelings about this movie be?
Well,
Thumbs up.
thank you everybody for listening. Let's go around and reintroduce ourselves and tell the people where they can find us. Noah.
I'm Noah. You can find me as Bubba Dabad, BUBBADABAD on Twitch, Twitter, and Insta. I am most active on Twitter.
Nice.
You can
Jeff.
find me on Twitter at Bubba Wubbadab.
Beautiful. Edge.
Hi, I'm Edge. I was your guest. You can find me on Twitter as Borderline Artist. It's borderline without the E because I ran out of characters.
Sad.
I don't know when the last time I tweet. I have not tweeted since December of last year, so it's been almost an entire year since I retweeted something else. But you could
damn.
follow me there if you really wanted. Don't expect much.
Well, where else can they find you? What's your physical street address?
See, I would give that, but I've been told not to dox my roommate. That is the only reason.
Damn.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Valid.
She's asked me very politely.
And I'm Emma. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Emma Panada. I'm also writing a TTRPG called All the Witches. You can find information about that at allthewitches_ on Twitter. When this episode comes out, I'll be running a one-shot of All the Witches on Going Critical's Twitch channel
Ooh.
that night. So fun news if you get on this episode immediately.
Pretty cool.
But I also run the podcast Twitter. It's at Casual Horror Pod. So you can follow that for updates on when episodes are dropping and all of that when I remember. And yeah, thank you all so much for hanging out with us and listening to this whole
Yeah.
episode. We'll see you next time.
No.
Goodbye.
Evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight.